Hello, everybody. It is Trusty's time slot, and you get Trusty because I didn't actually edit a video, so I don't have anything else to go in the slot. So I decided to do a live chat because I haven't done one in a while, and I'd been trying to figure out how to do a haul video, and so decided to turn it into a live chat / haul video and see what happens. I know there was a lot of stuff going on today. I did a little video earlier today. I was at the theater for the first time rehearsing. Yay, peasants rejoice. Theater seems to be at least slightly opening back up. So the show that I was supposed to be part of, unfortunately, is not happening as originally planned. But that's actually a blessing in disguise because the show had a lot of kids who have all decided to hit puberty at the same time. And some of the kids are taller than me now. So Matilda the musical will not be happening, but Matilda themed cabaret is going to happen. So today was the first day of rehearsal for that show, which opens next month. I freaked out when they said it opens in a month, and I'm like, yike. But it's fun. I've been away from the theater for so long. Saw a live production last week or the week before. And that was a ton of fun because the first time I've been in a theater to see anything. And then this is now the first time I was in for rehearsal. So it is a musical. I have not sung in anything in 2 years. I think the last thing I did, the last musical I was in was Mamma Mia, which was over 2 years ago. Yike. Because it was 2 years in the spring of 2019, not 2020. So yeah, so it's been over 2 years since I've sung in public. So we shall see how this goes. But it was fun to be there. A lot of friends that I've made from theater that, there's a concept called theater friends that you tend to only see when you're in shows together and you're not friends outside of that. Most of these people transcended that, but there are a couple that, they're still good friends, but I don't live near them. So this was a good time to get together with some theater friends / quote unquote real friends, whatever the case may be. So there's a little video that popped up. I did it on my Instagram channel because I hadn't done anything on Instagram lately. So if you don't follow me on Instagram, if you go over to that, you'll see, I think it ended up running like 20-25 minutes. I basically just did, kind of like a moving camera tour. Hey, Debbie from Chicago. I did kind of like a moving camera tour, just, basically showing backstage. Hey, Sharon, that you, as a member of the public, you would not see if you actually, had the ability of visiting DeKalb, Illinois, which I encourage you to do next month. You can come see me in a show. But if you, even if you went to that theater, hey, Brian, you would not be able to see all the stuff that I showed you. So it's kind of a fun behind the scenes thing. And then, I put it up on my vintage channel because I was showing the props. I was showing the costumes. I was showing the furniture. Hey, Dawn, there was some great vintage pieces that, they just become part of the, collection. And that theater is not unique, but it's somewhat rare, at least in the Chicago suburbs from the theaters that I've worked with. Most of them don't have the vast storage space that theater does. So you can do like I said, like a 20-minute tour, just showing all the different backgrounds. Hey, Mary. I did that in some of my other shows. It takes about 2 minutes because I'd like show a shelf and like, okay, that's everything. That's all they own. Because a lot of theaters have to bring stuff in for their show and then they have to get rid of it again because they literally do not have any place to store it. A couple places I know have like offsite storage that they have to rent or somebody donates. So sometimes that could happen, but for an actual to be part of the theater, and I've done props for theaters, it's nice to be able to say, like, if something breaks on stage, to be able to run into the basement and grab something else to replace it, without worrying about going to the storage unit or, trying to find a Goodwill that's open. So it's, that was a fun video to film. It was a fun time to be there for rehearsal. And then I had private rehearsal for my solo in the show. And I basically had to haul butt to get here on time to do this actual live chat. In an ideal world, I would have had a video already edited and I would have dropped that and then maybe did it as a premiere so I could chat in it. Or if I couldn't have made it, it wouldn't be the end of the world. You just watch the video. I didn't do that. So you get me And yeah, so doing a little live chat, and I'm hopefully going to do a little bit better following the chat. Ancestral Beginnings has joined us, so thank you so much. Nate from Australia, not Nate from New Zealand, because Nate from New Zealand informed me that today is, well, our Sunday is their Monday, and it is the Queen's birthday, so it is a national holiday. So he is partying like a queen. That came out wrong, but you know what I mean? It is a holiday, so he was not sure he's going to be able to make the chat. So we've got somebody saying, got Katie. Katie's here. I don't know if I said hi to Katie. Hi, Katie. I do not know. Oh, I'm sorry. Better Aussie Nate. Aussie Nate from Thrifters. So Aussie Nate is here. I don't think I'm going to own up to the better Nate, but you know, you might be able to prove yourself. You might be able to earn some stripes. At least you're here, so you get a stripe right there. So Aussie Nate is here, probably doing his packing. That's what he intended to do for his weekend sales. Get shipped out on Monday, so he may be packing. So Katie's saying hi to Brian, and I'm trying to figure out who that might be. So maybe that's Ancestral Beginnings. Is that a Brian? No, that was Mary, wasn't it? Yeah, Ancestral Beginnings was Mary. Who did I miss? That's Brian. Make sure I'm not missing anybody. Saying I said hi to Sharon. So Aussie Nate drunk at 2 p.m. Oh no, yeah, he's probably talking about old Nate, New Zealand Nate, Kiwi Nate. And so he's probably about to start his packing. Yeah, so Ancestral Beginning is Mary. So Brian Hance. There you go. Brian Hance in, I should have known that. I said hi to Brian. So Brian is in the Chicago suburbs, like Debbie from Chicago. So cool to have you here. And Chicago ladies. Here's we got the Chicago triumvirate coming in. We got Jeannie from Chicago Lady coming in too. So thanks for joining. So I do want to show some stuff that I got. Some of it'll be stuff that I got on my trip. So I'll turn this into kind of like a live haul. I also got, since Katie's here, I will actually start. Katie sent me friend mail. I was so excited. I don't get friend mail. I'm not saying that to like suddenly, like, I'm not trying to get guilted into friend mail. I just don't get it all that often. Katie sent me friend mail, and it is freaking gorgeous. She picked it up from Vintagerous, Joni at Vintagerous from Canada. And hey, Michelle from Emancipation 300. Oh, wow. Aussie Nate showing off. 90-day eBay average at 25,000. Okay, my 90-day eBay average is like $25. No, that's not technically true, but I really need to get better at listing things online. But this came in. It is salt glaze. It is Karam Studio Becker in Germany. I'm not sure on the date. I haven't had a chance to research the label, but you can see there's a foil label on it. But if you look, rotate it the right way, like if you look at the very top, you can see there's an incised mark underneath the label too. So I'm hoping I can figure out what this is, or maybe some age on it, without having to remove the label. I don't want to have to take that off, because, you know, once you peel something back, it's hard to get it back on, except for a Goodwill sticker, which wants to stay on forever. Hey, Irene. So yeah, I absolutely love these the colors on this. The in between that cobalt blue, it's not really reading all that true. It's like a greenish color, looking a little brown on the screen. But because of the green, I think this is going to look better with some of my secessionist pottery and some of my European pottery that I've got in my curio cabinet, my china cabinet. You know, she picked it up to go with the salt glaze on my piano, and it actually is beautiful. But with that green accent color, I've got some green pieces in my china cabinet. So I think it might look good with that. But I definitely wanted to show that off because it's absolutely it's in perfect condition. You know, no chips, no cracks. Joni sells great stuff. If you don't follow Vintagerous, she does her sales on. Hey, Helen, help me out, everybody. I think she does her sales on Tuesday nights, if I remember correctly. Maybe 9 p.m. Eastern. 8 p.m. Eastern. She's in the Western, I think she's in Vancouver. So she's in the Western part of Canada. So I can't remember when she does her sales, but she always has really great stuff. She knows her stuff. She always can identify it. Good. She's got good prices. And, you know, it's one of those cases that you have to take shipping into consideration, because just like shipping from the US to Canada is kind of expensive. Shipping from Canada to here is not as expensive, but a lot goes into the size of the box as well as the weight. So this, you know, I don't know how much, none of my business, what Katie ended up paying for the shipping on this, but this was small enough. It probably wouldn't be too bad. The same item that weighed the same amount, but was in a bigger box would probably weigh more or cost more. So But she does have great stuff. In some cases, you can just watch her video for educational purposes because she just shows stuff that you maybe haven't seen before. Because like she did the deep dive with me on cigarette cards and non-sporting cards. And she had a whole slew of cards that I'd never even heard of. They were all Canadian based, like chocolate companies and things that I'd never come across. So, hey, Scott from the Old Curiosity Shop. So I wasn't talking 30s. But I was talking something with some green. So, Scott's got those ears. He hears when someone's talking about, we may be in the 30s for this. I didn't say it was 30s, but if I had my guess, I think we're getting some age into this one. So that's why I can't wait to do some of the research and figure that one out. So, hey, Scott, thanks for joining. And just seeing and Nate did come in. So he put down the beer keg and is joining us from the Queen's birthday. So thank you for joining. Oh, and Katie put in the link for Vintagerous. So yeah, so that's her channel. So it's Vintagerous, vintage glass and china. I can't remember if afterwards, if you're looking it up, you probably can find it just on Vintagerous. I subscribe to it, so it's easy for me to find it, but definitely. And if you're not a follower of Old Curiosity Shop, you should follow him too. So the Mop and Glows Dry Mill, don't sit back and watch the show. Well, okay. Well, and I'm also going to show a couple of things sitting here on the corner. These were items I picked up. I visited Scott. I met him for the first time, and these were items that I picked up with Scott. This is an absolutely gorgeous. Still need to do some research on this one. Appreciate Scott for putting it into my hands. It is a beautiful piece of pottery, but check out that handle. It's an asymmetrical handle. So it's got a very nouveau look to it. It is marked, but the only thing that's marked on is made in Belgium. So I need to do a little bit of hunting on that one and turning it right side up. I need to do a little bit of hunting on that. I did a really quick search at the time. I showed it to Kiwi Nate, and he asked if it was Houda. And it does kind of have the form of Houda, which is in Holland. This is in Belgium, so they're close. But I've not seen that handle before. And I would say that somebody just said it. Yeah, Mary just said it from Ancestral Beginnings. It's an absolutely gorgeous handle. And I think that might be the key to the mystery, because I'm not sure how common that would have been. And it's not, like I would say, it's not an art studio piece, because an art studio, an individual piece would not have needed to be stamped as made in Belgium. So it was a beautiful production piece designed for the export market. And it's just got some beautiful 2-color glazes to it. So this, again, will go into my curio alongside this. And I also have some more contemporary Ephraim pottery, which has that same type of look. So I definitely, that'll all look great in there. A couple of people, Linda joined, missed that. Hey, Linda. Cindy coming in from the Keystone State. Oh, Sam's coming in from, okay, and I did have to establish this. So Sam is coming in from New Hampshire, which does live free or die. I was mistakenly thinking that, either Vermont or New Hampshire was the live free or die state. And I realized that's kind of stupid. So he's the granite state. And I think we determined that Vermont was the Green Mountain state. And when I was doing some digging, this was totally unrelated, but there are only, I think, 2 states in the union that I have not shipped to. 3 states in the union that I have not shipped to: Idaho, North Dakota, and Vermont. Those are the only 3 places I've never shipped, either through Etsy, eBay, or doing these sales and on Instagram. So I don't know what Vermont is, and I don't really care, because I evidently don't have any customers in Vermont. So live free or die in New Hampshire, Sam. And Sam is the mastermind behind the Dining at Sea Instagram page. And you heard it here first. And I'm saying this so that Sam can't back out. Sam has agreed to do a deep dive with me on travel menus. So my schedule's somewhat booked up because of the show that's coming up and different holidays. So unfortunately, the one with Sam will not actually happen until August, but he is on the hook to do a deep dive on his amazing travel menu collection, all vintage, all gorgeous. And if you have Instagram, follow that page at Dining at Sea is the name of his page. And it's just complete eye candy for things that you did not know that you needed to collect, because they're gorgeous. Let's see. So I think I said hi to Irene. Hello to Helen. Dave in the Med Center coming in from Texas. Thanks for joining, Dave. I said hi, Cindy. Okay, Kat's coming in. Calypso Antiques. Thanks for joining. I think I said hi to Sharon. Oh, Roxana, Miss Roxana. Thanks for coming in, Roxana. And just making sure I do a little catch up, because I'm so, as if anyone is, most of you follow my channel anyway. If you join me on my live sales, I'm horrible at maintaining the chat. I'm just absolutely horrible. Hey, Sabrina. And there's Vintage Love and Nerd also coming in from Canada. I'm just horrible at following the chat. It's just one of those things that I get focused on talking and showing and, you know, keeping track of everything. And then I forget to actually do anything else. The milk glass sale, that was actually George, the Antique Nomad. He did it all milk glass sale. I think it was George. No, it wasn't George. Somebody did an all milk glass sale, but it wasn't me. What I will be doing, and I'll go ahead and show some of the live haul. What I will be doing, hey, Nat, what I will be doing is an all copper luster sale. I have not really advertised it. I've not done anything to prepare for it, but it'll probably end up being an Instagram sale, because I will just say that as I traveled through the East Coast, people don't evidently like copper luster as much as I do. And I kept coming across it at very reasonable prices. You know, this is a fairly sizable piece. I was coming across pieces that were, you know, they were selling for a fraction of what I paid for pieces that were in my own collection. So some of these are going to continue being in my collection. That's one of my favorite pieces, also one of my largest. Uh-oh, we got a Vermonter. So is that the Green Mountain State, Linda? So I've got to be careful what I say. Not that I'd say anything about Vermont. The only thing at Green Mountain wasn't that Ethan Allen and the Green Mountain Men, Jolly Green Giant, something, I don't remember. But yeah, so most of the copper, this one actually is a decorated copper luster piece. I got another piece with Scott that he was gracious enough to pass on to me. It is a mug that also has the coloration on it. I need to do a little bit of research on those pieces, because there's a version of copper luster called gaudy luster. And this is approaching gaudy luster. Okay, so Linda Punky is saying she lives in the National Green Forest of the Green Mountains. Okay, is that Ethan Allen? I know he makes furniture too, but something about the Green Mountain Boys or something. I hated American history growing up. It really wasn't until my daughter got into it that I started doing anything in history. Hey, Proud American, I didn't see you come in. And let's see, I think I said hi to Annette. So I'm trying not to miss anybody because I'm so bad during the normal chat. But anyway, so this one, if you look really closely, you can see there's actually multiple colors on this. So there's the copper, but there's also the cobalt, and then there's also a red. Like when I did the research on like true gaudy luster starts introducing like yellows. Like this is not gaudy luster, but it's starting to approach it. And it's not gaudy from it's not a pejorative term. It's just to differentiate, because there's also silver luster, copper luster, and then I want to say there's a gold luster too. And this one, I picked this up as an example of what I think gaudy luster kind of like counts as, because, my pieces, pretty much the only thing that I've got in my personal collection are copper with the cobalt blue. And I'm doing it, I'm not exactly original. I'm doing it because my stoneware also has the cobalt blue. This is one of my favorite pieces too. I keep moving it to take pictures, but it's a fairly large bowl, but also has that cobalt design around it. And I've got some small pictures off to the side, but when I was doing some of the research, so first let me see if I can do this without breaking anything. So if you can get an idea, this milk crate is filled with copper luster. I picked up, I think ended up being 21 or 22 pieces of copper luster that I will be reselling. Oh, okay, I may not resell all 22. A couple of these I think will stay in my collection. This one that I got, that Scott put in my hands, this one will definitely stay in my collection. Some of the pieces are similar or identical to what I already have. So the picture with the cobalt on, so those I'll sell. But like these, I'm basically unpeeling the layers here. So you got this large one. This might stay in my collection because I like this one a lot. That's all copper. But when I did some of the research, copper luster, when it gets applied, has a tendency to change its color and can also turn pink. And so you've got this copper luster with the sanded band on it with the pink interior. These pieces with the sanded bands, I have several of them. These are all pre-Civil War. So this design comes from 1830s to 1850s. So, you know, this is getting into the true primitive stuff that I really like. So a couple of these might end up staying in my collection. There's one I'll definitely sell because is it a gorgeous piece, but it's not one that I want to build my collection around, because this one, they did it on purpose and they put it like the entire body is in pink. And I had never seen this design before. So this one, it is not stamped. It's not one of the British ones. So it has the better chance of being older. You can see where there's a little bit of a chip in the bottom, how much the glaze has darkened, or the pottery has darkened. So even though I've not seen this design, and if you just looked at this independently, you're like, oh, that could be mid-century modern. I want to say this is 19th century as well. So I need to find this one. I'll definitely be selling it, but I want to know what I'm selling. But it's got this cool little house design. It's like I'm assuming that's not a TV antenna. That's a chimney, because you can see smoke coming out of the chimney. But it's just a very simplistic design that, again, it's gorgeous. It's got the pink on the inside. That was a fun one, but that I will definitely sell. So Linda's saying that's one of that you have that one in the house in your mountains. Oh, perfect. Hey, Book Bewitched. And let's see, a couple small ones that have the cobalt. So I love the fact, I mean, there's just all these different sizes. It's like, I don't want to overwhelm my collection. So I've got a couple pieces here, which is trying to break up the gray from the stoneware, and then some of the storage boxes. And then I've got some on the bookcases on the side, which you really can't see. That's also just kind of breaking it up a little bit. I've put the pewters primarily in the kitchen. This is taking in the copper. And then as you work my way around my house, the next room that's connected is the living room, and that's taking the copper and turning it into a gold. So I'm trying to have some sort of path in how the colors change. There was one that I picked up. This one I actually picked up when I was with Scott, but this one was at the pick that he and I did together. And this I picked up. It's the only green one I've ever seen. I don't necessarily think it's rare. It's just, I personally had never seen the green color before. And it's not like coming up super clear, but you can kind of tell between the two. This is the cobalt. That's the green. And I would say it's like a forest green. There's a little hint of a bluish green into it. It's not teal. So I don't know exactly what color you would say it is, but yeah. So this one, again, this is also something I will definitely sell, because I'm perfectly happy keeping the ones that are solid copper, copper color. But I have no interest in introducing another color. So like the pink one will definitely sell. This one with the green will definitely sell. I'll probably keep one or two of the sanded ones, but I think this really light colored one, I'll probably get rid of that one as well. And I saw it and then I didn't grab it, but somebody asked the question, does the copper tarnish or anything? I have never polished any of mine. I've had, I can't say I've had this collection for that long. I've added this collection since COVID. So they're definitely within a year, probably like 6 to 9 months. You get a little bit of pitting, but I think that was actually from the glaze when it was made. I've never polished and never done anything. So I don't think the metallic content necessarily is copper. Like I said, the way it's done, and I will do a video when I do the sale. I'll probably post the sale onto Instagram. It's something with the way the glazing is done. If you do it wrong, it turns pink or purple. So you can get pieces that have a copper tone, but also have a little bit of pink or purple in them. So I need to do a little bit more. I need to understand that process, which totally fascinates me because my degree's in chemistry. So it's like, I really want to know. But you've got, again, you've got the pink, goes on the inside, even though the outside is completely the copper. And then I don't even know how, it's almost like a stucco. I don't even know how this, but when I was doing the research on these, it's called a sanded band. And all the references to that show that they're pre-Civil War. And so they're a very distinct look. Like I said, the lighter color ones I probably won't keep, but I might keep the darker ones. But even these, like, you get these little variations in sizes. So you can build a collection that doesn't take up a ton of space, and it looks cool, gives a little bit of variety. It looks freaking awesome. In my opinion, it looks awesome with the piano. And then I agree, Book Bewitched, the Cobalt, that's what really attracted my attention. It's like I was trying to figure out what to build up. And the problem was I had pewter here, but the pewter was getting lost visually against the gray ground of the of my stoneware. So I wanted to change that, and I stumbled across this, and I was very glad I did. And so, like I said, it was just one of those weird things. I asked somebody, it's like, why are the, it wasn't like I was paying garage sale prices. So don't get the wrong idea. Like I picked all this stuff up for $1. It's one of those cases where it was just significantly cheaper than what I was paying on eBay or on Etsy. And I'm like, I don't understand. Like, these were antique stores. In some cases, these were not thrift stores. Why are they so cheap? But then I ended up at one booth that I probably bought 4 items from that booth, but their booth had more than this entire collection put together. Like, it was one shelf with probably 40 or 50 pieces of copper luster. And I'm like, why? And they said because it really was a popular collectible. People really liked it when they did that colonial era back in the 70s. And so it became, I guess, because the colonial era was more prevalent in the Eastern, region, they loved it. And so they just had tons of it. And then when, the taste changed, it flooded that market. And so they didn't feel it had enough value to go up onto eBay or Etsy, which is where I was finding things. So it's like just having the opportunity to drive through these states and pick these things up for, like, I don't get into like, let's announce what I paid. I will say what I paid for this was literally 1/10 of what I paid for this one, which is slightly larger, but literally I paid 10 times more for that larger one than I did for this one. So it's just one of those cases, right place at the right time, what people are looking for. So what I think I might end up doing, I can't imagine doing an entire live sale of copper luster. Like, some people might be entertained, other people could be bored out of their minds. So what I'll probably end up doing is, I've never done an Instagram sale, like a structured sale. So what I might do is post some pictures of the entire lot and then release it at like 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock or whatever, tag people if they're interested, to showcase what I'm offering during the sale, and then just sell it off of Instagram. And see what happens. So hopefully I for those, if you're not on Instagram, like, I'm not trying to cheat anybody out of anything, but there's a ton of people that aren't on YouTube. So it's, it's one of those cases that I need to kind of mix things up a little bit. And there are things on eBay. And if I listed all of this stuff on eBay, I would make all of my money back. Like, I would have no issue making a ton of money, but there's so much of it already for me to flood the eBay market with literally 20 to 25 pieces. Not really fair to the other eBay sellers. And I'm not going to get my money either, because suddenly like, oh, well, if there's so much, it clearly isn't worth all that much. So I'll try and get some good prices, because I got good prices on this stuff, but put it out there. And so, I'll do it. So it's a little bit different. I don't know when it'll happen. So just be aware. I'll do the best I can, but that was one. Thanks, Sharon. It is one of those ideas that it's like, okay, like the first place I went to, I want to say, I think I did find 1 or 2 in Ohio. So like when I did my trip, I left for Chicago, did not visit anything in Indiana. then went to Ohio, and I did a couple of stops in Ohio. And I want to say maybe I got one, maybe two pieces, but it wasn't until I want to say it was Pennsylvania was where I basically just, I even did a couple of videos. I did a video of my haul in Pennsylvania. I want to say I got 5 in one booth and then 4 in another booth. I'm not sure the 4 got pictured, but I held all of them in one hand. Like, okay, this was like all from one booth. Yeah, whatever. So it's just one of those cases. So if somebody loves something, I want to know why. 40 years ago, I had fluffy sheep. I still notice I'm even pleased to see fluffy sheep. So for my reasons, I don't think you're necessarily asking me, but maybe you are. It's kind of what I really kind of came upon it as a solution to a design dilemma. You know, it's one of those cases that in the world of COVID, you know, we were all locked into our homes. My collections have grown like in all different areas because I was bored. So I, you know, hopped on eBay, hopped on Etsy, hopped on people's live sales, and I bought stuff. Because this is actually the backdrop I use for work. I do have a day job. So this is the backdrop I use for work. I do actually put thought into, okay, what is this looking like so that I don't want to distract people. Like I can't put a freaking disco ball up there. You know, there's not going to distract people, but actually give them something of interest to look at when I have to step away from the screen, which I'm going to have to do because I forgot to grab something I wanted to show. You know, when I step away from the screen, or just they're bored of looking at me, they look behind. And I will say I had to do the introductory video for my company for all of our trade shows. I filmed the introduction and I filmed it with this background. We were getting comments, formal comments back into our website. They're like, who's the guy with all of the stoneware? Like, where'd that stoneware? Like, they wanted to know what the stoneware was, not anything to do with what we were selling. So maybe that wasn't a good thing. I don't know. But I wanted something that looked a little bit different. I had picked up this piece, which also gets pride of place. This piece I actually picked up during COVID, picked this up during a live sale from George, the Antique Nomad. And it's the black shaker box, shaker storage box, but with the gold accents. So that was kind of what started dictating me. And I don't want to like give anyone a headache, but I'll turn a little bit. I have bookcases on either side of my piano that are black, and in the background is a gold design. So I've got that black and gold theme. And so then the copper really did fit with that, particularly when I found the copper with the cobalt. So mine wasn't like, ooh, I have this desire to collect copper luster. First time I saw a piece, I didn't even know what it was, but I'm like, I need that in my life. And that's what happens. You go to an antique show, you go to a live sale. You know, my philosophy for my live sales are, you did not wake up this morning saying you needed a milk glass owl, but I need to convince you to buy a milk glass owl. So in some cases it is, I will try and be competitive in price. I will always try and be competitive in price. I will not always be the cheapest. I've been accused, maybe too strong of a word, but I've had it pointed out to me that there was an item that was cheaper available on Etsy or eBay. I'm like, then go buy from them. I can't be the cheapest all the time in a global marketplace. But like this end up being a piece. This will actually be a piece that will end up in the fundraiser, you know, just to give everyone a heads up. So you were asking about milk glass. This is the only piece of milk glass I currently have in my collection because it was donated to me for the fundraiser for the Doxies. So Dawn is on here. If you do not know Dawn, you should know Dawn because she is a little saint that currently has, are we up to 18 Dachshunds now, Dawn? Her latest one was a dog with both hearing and sight vision problems. We did a fundraiser for them back in November on my channel. We raised $3,500 for the fundraiser. And so we're going to do another one this November. And so some people have started donating items for me to sell in the live sale. This came from Michelle Decker. She gave me a miscellaneous box of stuff she's cleaning out from her father's estate. And so this is a Westmoreland. It actually still has the tag right on there. Westmoreland owl paperweight. And it is pretty heavy. I mean, this weighs a pound, you know, by itself. So yes, kudos to Dawn. She is the saint. Hopefully she's still on here so we can all hear, she can hear us praise her. But so this will go into a box until the fundraiser. One of the things that I'm going to do differently, the fundraiser was very successful last year, so we're trying to figure out how to make it even more successful. So one thing I'm going to shift is I'm going to do some things on my eBay channel, like what I've been doing with my regular sale, so we can sell more items. So some items that have, maybe, and this might be one of them, that might have some individual collectability on their own, or the bigger ticket items. There you go. Dawn says she's not a saint, just crazy. If you want a good laugh, you can look at, there's a video both on the one on my Instagram, the dogs were being very well behaved, because Dawn wasn't there evidently. And so I was the new alpha dog and they were suddenly like very well behaved. But I did a live haul video from the rescue in Maryland, and I was holding the dogs, and the one was like a little kamikaze pilot, just leaping onto my lap and then falling onto the floor because I couldn't hold her. You just see this little tail like fly by and then disappear. But it was a lot of fun being in the middle of all the dachshunds. So what I'm going to be doing differently is we will use the eBay channel. The other thing we're going to do is, because I don't want the sale itself to be like a 3-hour event, what we'll probably end up doing is, last year I said people that donated things, like you could donate anything, and I tried to mix things together. But what I'm going to do is probably dedicate the live sale portion, which will be as part of one of my Thursday live sales. It'll be in November. We haven't picked the date yet, but it'll be November. We'll pick one of those Thursdays, and that'll just be the Doxie Fundraiser. That will be only dog related items, not necessarily Doxie related items, but one of the other things that Michelle gave me is this absolutely gorgeous Royal Dalton figure of a pair of sheepdogs. So what I'll end up doing is I'll try and promote a lot of these items for the live sale, as well as promoting them for the eBay sale. But if they have individual, like if I get more items that are sheepdog related, maybe I'll group them together as a lot. I did that last year as well. It probably will cut down on the length of time of the actual live sale, so that Dawn will have a chance to be able to show off some of her dogs. Like we had kind of ran out of time last year, that she didn't get to see everything. But so Michelle, she really was just cleaning out her dad's estate. So the stuff that she sent, that was the only dog related item. But there's also going to be things like, it's a typewriter ribbon tin. So like I already sent a picture of that to Katie. So there's going to be things too. Like if you see any of the things, that if I promote them on Instagram, if I don't know if I'll do other, how I'll do haul videos or anything you see tonight. If you want any of these things, if I can sell them ahead of time, I'll just put the money aside, and that will still be for the fundraiser. And then like, that's actually not a bad thing, because then I'll have more time to dedicate to sell stuff during the sale. Because last year I had over 100 items that I had to mix into boxes, and I'll probably do more mystery boxes, that kind of stuff. If I sell things in advance, then there's more room to do mystery boxes or that kind of stuff. Yeah, so that's one of the things, Book Bewitched. That's one of the things I'll have to decide. This has moved into its own echelon because it's Royal Dalton, and I don't mean to dismiss any other dog figurines that I were to receive, but this would be collectible simply because it's Royal Dalton, not necessarily because it's a sheepdog. So there's other items. Well, like this is one. Oh no, here's one. So this came from Jan Goodwin, and at no point am I dismissing anything that anybody gives me, because they're all any money is going to bring money to the charity. This probably is not going to get a lot of airtime on its own. It will get mixed with something else. Like I will have to do a little looking. This is the Thai Beanie Baby Hodgepodge from 2002. I don't know. Is it an older one? Is it a newer one? I have no idea. Handmade in China. It does not mean, hey, Martha, it does not mean it can't raise us some money, but I would probably not give this its own slot during the live sale. And I still will not be doing auctions on my live sale. I just don't do that. But I could move it into an auction into eBay, but I'm not sure that this by itself would justify. So I have no idea if this is a real, it's not a real dog, but if this is a breed of dog, it doesn't say anything. Like Hodgepodge to me makes it it's a mutt. So if I get other like mutt items, like I could turn a lot, like I had several of those lots last year. I just grouped like 3 or 4 little things like this and sold it for like 15, 20 bucks or something. Like I might still do that. So it's what I have to figure out. Oh, Kim's saying she hasn't seen that one. Hi, Kim. I know nothing about Beanie Babies. My daughter had some growing up. She was born in 1999. I don't remember when she got her first one. So like 2002 seems kind of old to me, but I don't even know when they started. So, you know, it's definitely, I still appreciate, and she donated a ton of other stuff, you know, but this ends up being an example where maybe the Royal Dalton turns into a lot all by itself. And maybe that does go onto eBay. And then this becomes like just a fun item to sell for like 10, 15 bucks that people can support the fundraiser and still get something small in return. And it's like super lightweight. The other thing that this is going back to, I want to finish Michelle Decker's box. Like she donated a bunch of glass. So I've got this seal paperweight with a balancing a ball on its head. So I've got that. She actually also gave me 2 paperweights themselves. One with the Millefiori design at the bottom, and then another one with a floral design stretched into it. And yes, Cindy, anybody can donate items. I will be collecting them all here. Like this is an item when I saw Dawn at the rescue, she actually donated an item that's basically going right back to her. But this is, somebody had given this to her for her Doxie collection. Well, it ain't a Doxie. So it's a Basset Hound. So this is not anything particularly special. It's a very nice piece. I used to have a Basset Hound, so I personally love him. It looks a little bit like Huck, but he's not a stamped piece. You know, he probably does at some age just because of the patina on him. But this will probably be mixing some things together. Yeah, Debbie from Chicago put some stuff together last year as well. So I have on all of my videos, probably not on this one, but in most of my videos that are like uploaded videos, not the live videos, my friend mail address is included there. You can just send anything in there. I just ask that you make sure you tell me who you are. So you will get credit for it. The Just One More Dachshund Rescue is a 501c3 organization. So particularly if you're donating anything particular value, I'm currently negotiating with someone who has a Tree of Life EAPG collection, which was last estimated its value of $2,500. And we're kind of debating, it's not worth $2,500 anymore. So we're trying to figure out, well, what can we give her as a certificate or a letter to say what she donated so that she can have her tax purposes or whatever. So if there's anything particularly valuable, let us know, because like this would be a perfect example. I wouldn't want to take something like this and assume it is not, think it's a Hobby Lobby piece of glass when it turns out it's actually a Murano piece of glass. This is not a Murano piece of glass. If it is a Murano piece of glass, the person who made this has already been shot and the body's been dumped into the Mediterranean. Because as cool of a piece it is, there's no way I'm going to be able to represent this very easily, but it was not made in a way that took into account how large and heavy this ball is. So even if you just look at where this ball is compared to what the center of gravity should be on this piece. If you just tip it just a little, the whole thing just takes a nosedive. It has fallen over twice just since it's been in my possession for like 2 weeks. It is now stored like this because it's a cool piece, but it's not controlled bubbles. It's just a cool piece. And it would be like, as a paperweight, it would look great as long as you're not moving a lot of things around. And no, it's a seal because of the legs in the back. So it's not a Doxie. Still a cool piece, and it will still gain value. But I'm making the assumption that this wasn't a high-end piece. So if I were to sell this by itself, because it's a fundraiser, I'd probably still ask like 20 bucks for it, or maybe 25. But if it turns out that this is some piece of Austrian, whatever, made by a blind nun in a convent that was bombed during World War II, okay, maybe it's worth more. So give a guy help, give me some break, give me a break, give some help. If you're going to donate something, if I can't figure out what it is, it would actually work better as a bookend, Book Bewitched, because if you push the books against this, it would counterbalance the fact it wants to tip over, and it itself would then help the book stay upright because it would always be applying pressure. But it's still a cool piece. Michelle Decker donated that one as well, and I'm not disparaging her piece in any way. It's just, it's a good example of, like, she didn't know anything about the history either. It's from her father's estate. And so that's how some things do go through. I mean, I've gotten notes from people saying, do you realize how valuable that piece was that you sold for $20? Like, well, trust me, I didn't pay $20 for it, so I was happy. Different people have different philosophies, but because it's a fundraiser, I want to get as much money for the Doxies as I can. So Cindy, no, you do not have to donate dog-related items. If they're dog-related, they will go into the live sale portion itself. If they're not dog related, they may end up going into a mystery box, or they might end up going on to the eBay portion of the sale. A lot of that's just going to kind of depend on how many donations we end up getting. The one thing that I would ask is that donations reach me really by October. There are currently boxes. If you haven't heard, if you don't follow me on Instagram, there's something called the Trusty Traveler. Hashtag is Trusty Travels. Those are little like geocaching boxes that are currently circulating the country. Those all will come back to me in October, and everything that's in those will then also be auctioned off or sold off for the fundraiser. I just need time to organize what I receive, because it also happens that that's a busy time for me at work. That is trade show season. So I need to have time. And so last year things were showing up in November, and the fundraiser was in November. And so it's like there were some things that did not get promoted. There were things that I'm sure they didn't get researched properly. I was happy and thrilled to get them, but it put us at kind of behind the 8 ball in trying to make sure everything was organized as best as it could be and raise the most money for the Doxies. So yes, they do not have to be dog related. I would say the only like real, I hate to say requirement, but you guys, I don't think there's maybe 1 or 2 names that I don't recognize, but for the most part, if you're here, you know me, you probably see my live sales. I don't carry damaged items, so I don't want, a birthday angel that's had its head fallen off and somebody glued it back on. Nothing wrong. If that's what you like and you need a shelf sitter and you pay a reasonable price for it, hey, that's great. But I do want to be able, every time I sell one item, I'm not selling another item. And so that's one of the things that I will probably have to do a lot more, make the choice, Sophie, what gets put into the sale versus what gets put into a mystery box versus what goes onto eBay. Simply because although this doesn't seem like it's anything in particularly special, it's Copeland. So this will probably end up being on eBay because it's not dog related. It's a cigarette holder, which, not everyone's going to collect, although it looked great with Q-tips. It will probably get more money and more visibility on something like eBay because there are people who collect Copeland because it's Copeland. So, as a Spode collectors or whatever, they will pick that up. So I just have to pick and choose what goes in, and I will do lots. Some of them may be mystery boxes. Some of them, this also came from Michelle Decker. She donated 3 pieces of Wedgwood. So I don't know if Kiwi Nate is still here. But we've got the clubs from the bridge suit. This is the regular Wedgwood blue. I haven't researched any of these. It looks like there's a date on this one. 57, 67. So there's actually some age to that one. And then also the Wedgwood green, which I don't really come across all that often. That one's much more clearly marked as 1972. And then another green. I can't make out the date on that one, but another green Wedgwood. Hey, Chad. So, this will be a case like if I get any more Wedgwood, like would I make a massive, lot of Wedgwood? That would probably go into eBay because then people might be interested in it because they have a collection. If it gets to be too big, though, I'd probably divide it into 2 different pieces, like maybe all the green Wedgwood in one lot and the blue ones in another. But, because the other thing I've got to take into consideration, I have to ship all of this. So And then I just, for completion's sake, Michelle Decker also gave me this really cool flower frog vase. Really nice art pottery piece, signed Garnch. I just sounded like goofy when I said that. Garnett, maybe Gar. No, CT. No, Garnett, maybe. I was thinking that was a CH at the end, but maybe it's ETT. Anyway, again, got to figure out what this is. And then like, what do I do with it? Do I put it into an E? Because like something like this, if I can't figure out how to spell the name, it's hard. If you don't have the right keywords, it's hard for people to find things. So I want to make sure things get onto eBay long enough that I can then promote it saying, hey, go to the eBay store, my eBay store, because you can, whatever you buy will support the Doxies. So that was all the stuff that I got from, so that was like basically friend mail. Like I said earlier, I don't get that much friend mail. I get great stuff for the dogs, and I'm thrilled to have the dogs. And I've also said in the cases where I have received friend mail, if it's not specifically to one of my collections, and I'm not putting out a request for things for my collection, but I collect some pretty esoteric stuff and some pretty expensive stuff that not everyone is going to be able to pick up a piece of 19th century stoneware that I'm going to add to my collection. So I recognize that. So if anybody ever gives me something as friend mail, I will appreciate it. I will love it. I will, honor you and give you a shout out, but then it'll go into the fundraiser. I live in a townhouse. I don't have room to store a lot of stuff, and my own collections I'm already retiring pieces to bring my own collection together. Which brings me to one of the things I need to step away, entertain yourselves. Hey, Peterson, entertain yourselves for like 2 seconds, because one of the pieces, and the reason I wanted to do this video was because I have yet to put these pieces on my piano, because I wanted to show them to you guys first. And right now they're sitting in my refrigerator and I forgot to move them. So hold on. What did the church lady say? Discuss amongst yourselves. So this is one. I will just say, give it like a little, I'll give a little spoiler alert. I spent almost $1,500 on these 3 pieces that I'm about to show you. Number 2. And number 3. All right. Sorry about that. If you missed the very beginning, I rushed here straight from rehearsal and had not had these set up. So I live in Chicago. We don't have anything that gets into like Revolutionary War, anything 18th century. We just don't, we're Civil War. That's like pretty much where things around here started. Not technically, but for collecting things. So I have a lot of the stoneware pieces, like you'd think it would be available here in the Midwest. They really weren't. It really wasn't. It was made in Pennsylvania, Virginia, West Virginia after the war, New York. And a lot of the pieces I had were not marked. So I don't really know exactly where they were made. This piece here I will just say, is the most expensive piece of my collection. Not anymore, but it was the most expensive piece. And it was a piece that was attributed to, because it wasn't signed, it wasn't marked. It has a distinctive mark, and it has a very distinctive handle on the side. So person I bought it from, that's where it was attributed from. That's great. So my goal on this trip was, okay, I'm going to Pennsylvania. I am going to the land where all this stuff was made. I should be able to find some great pieces, and they should all be signed, and I should have some great, attribution to them. Well, 1 out of 3, basically. I got some great pieces. This is by far the largest, and this was the most expensive in my collection. So this one, unfortunately, is not attributed to anybody. Like it is southwestern Pennsylvania, so it's a region, but they couldn't tell me who made it or specifically the era. But it's a gorgeous size, compared to my head. It'll be the largest one in my collection. It's got this flower design on the front that wraps all the way around to the side. I don't have anything that does that. There's cobalt decoration under the handles, and it's decorated on the back, which never happens. So it is by far the most expensive piece in my collection now. It's also probably the most valuable collection because even though it's not have any attributions, it has some distinct maker marks that make it very specific. A lot of pieces end up kind of looking the same, and that's why it's hard to attribute them to anyone. That one, someday I probably will be able to attribute to someone because of the way the handles are made, because of that side floral decoration. This is another one I picked up at the same time. I got a good deal on because I bought 2 of them. And does Daniel join? Hey, Daniel and Christy. The biggest one I just showed, estimate that's probably around 1860 was the best they could do on that. This is probably 1860s to 1880s. This one is not stamped, but because it has very straight sides, which is fairly distinct, and there are no handles, this one is Greer Pottery, which is at the Pennsylvania-Maryland border. And the family kind of continued itself over like 40 or 50 years making pottery. So this is what they did in the Greer Pottery. They think it's one of the later ones. So like 1860s, 1880s. So this one, was super happy to pick that up. And they both have the gray grounds. If you look behind me, you can actually see. So this one has the gray. You've got the brown of the storage box, but the piece behind it is brown. And that's what I'm trying. Like my philosophy for a lot of these is it's quality over quantity. So my collection fits on the top of this piano and in the 2 bookcases on either side. And these 3 pieces coming in, 3 things will have to be retired. And so some of the things that are going to get retired, one is a reproduction. I've got a reproduction storage box that'll go because that was done like 20 years ago. It's nothing. It's just it's holding a space. So that's going to go. There's a space that I'm holding currently the piano books for this. I'm sitting at a piano, if you didn't know that. The piano books for this, those are going to go someplace else because it doesn't get played. They don't need to be sitting out. So that'll free up a spot, but I'm going to have to bump one actual piece. And it's probably going to be one of these brown ones because these 2 pieces are too special to get relegated to like a bottom shelf or something. So some things might come off the piano and move onto the bookcase. So those are the 2. But the one, so those are the first 2 I got. Those are both in Pennsylvania. Okay, and it's really, really heavy. So hold on. Okay, and so then I spent way more than I'd anticipated. Let's just say that. So those 2 by themselves were over $1,000. The combined, well over $1,000. But I still didn't have a piece that was attributed to anybody. I'm like, I had told myself I was not going to add to my collection unless I could find a gray grounded piece that had the cobalt decoration that I could know who and or when it was made. So I ended up going, the whole reason this trip took place was, hey, Harry, the whole reason this trip was even happening was for my daughter's graduation. She was graduating from college and in Carlisle, Pennsylvania, home of Dickinson College and home to Crazy Lamp Lady. Crazy Lamp Lady was also on vacation that week, so I did not meet with her. But regardless, I ended up going to another antique shop in Carlisle, and I got this one. And what was ironic about this one is I was super excited. It's got this great side floral cobalt design. It's got the number, and it's got the attribution, James R. Burns. But look at where it was made. It's made in Toronto. I didn't even know Canadians made salt glaze. So if I've still got my Canucks in the house, I did find this one also, I want to say was 1880s, if I remember correctly, the James R. Burns. I didn't write down my notes. It's one of those cases like I need to really start keeping my notes. But I found it was in a book. It was easy. Like it said exactly if your piece is stamped James R. Burns, Toronto, it was made in this era. So it's definitely 19th century. I think it was like late though. And this one is a jug compared to the Crocs. And so that changes value as well. So this one wasn't nearly as expensive as the others, but by the time I was done with all 3 of them, I was about $1,500 in. So, okay, I'm not sure what Books Bewitched is asking. Okay, so Cindy's saying both her brother and nephew graduated. Dickinson is Okay, well, here's what's interesting about Dickinson. They claim to be the oldest college in the United States. It was the first college founded after the Constitution went into effect. But Howard University outside DC also claims to be the oldest college in the United States. So I don't know the difference, or I don't know why. But Dickinson definitely is old. And my daughter was a history and a German double major, so she loved the history of that. It's a small school, so it was a really good size, fit for her. So yes, in general, yes, the 3 would mean it'd be in gallons. I'm not sure if Canada used gallons. I don't think back then they would have been in the liters, so they probably were using gallons. But there's some discrepancies on exactly what they would have held, because that piece there is actually says a number 4 on it. This that says 3 actually to me looks bigger than that one, but maybe because it's tapered. I've never actually tried to hold any liquids in them. This one doesn't have a number on it at all. The one at the top, which is probably about, it's not as big as this one, that one only has a 2 on it. So I think there is some reference to what volume it would have held, but it might have been a measure that from the people that made it or the store that carried it. And so this is my pride and joy. Like, this is not the oldest collection of my own. My oldest collection is actually a contemporary art glass collection, which is, most of it's probably just becoming vintage because I started it in the 90s. But they were all contemporary pieces, not vintage at all. This started when we built the house prior to my divorce. We built the house in 2004. This piano was purchased to go into that house. And once this piano came, this salt glaze collection came with it. We had Civil War quilts in the room. It wasn't a theme room, but it definitely had a look. And then when we got divorced, this entire ensemble came to me because I was the one that built it. So don't really come across these in live sales very often, but for those who missed it, Katie found this, and I think this is a great collection to my home. It may not sit amongst my other salt glaze, but it's a beautiful piece of salt glaze. It's just a little bit more contemporary and will go into my other cabinet. So those 3 will probably be up and in display maybe by the time of my next live sale. So, and I feel that they look really good on the piano. Like, it's just one of those cases. Again, it was all aesthetic. I had no desire to collect 19th century stoneware. It was, I wanted something that was somewhat period. I started with like Red Wing pieces, like the ones that were really from the 40s and the 50s that were old, because the piano is only from 1920. So it's not like I have a 19th century piano, but it's got the tiger oak. It's got that older look. It's a vertical grand, not an upright. So it's got a much deeper tone than a typical, like a spinet or something like that. And so the minute I put that first piece on top of the piano, even though it was only like 80 years old, I'm like, oh yeah, this is the collection I'm growing. So it's taken a long time because they're not cheap. And it's like, I can sometimes find them on the internet, but to ship some of this stuff, I mean, that one I was just trying to lift, that's probably 20 pounds, if not more. So you're talking, $100 to $200 just to ship on top of whatever you're paying to get it. And condition to me is everything. So like, I don't want something with a crack. I almost bought a piece that had a crack, and it was I had it at the desk. And the minute I set it down, we both heard it go kind of like a thunk. And she's like, that doesn't sound right. And so we cleared, like I'd set it on top of some papers and stuff. So we cleared all that stuff. So it was sitting very flat on the wood counter. And then she pinged, this is the owner of this shop. It wasn't her piece. It was one of her vendors. She pinged the side of the thing. And it just like, you knew there was a crack. And so we both were like, okay, I inspected this. I did not see a crack. And all of a sudden we turned it in a certain way and the light hit it. And there was a crack that ran from the lip all the way down to the base. It didn't go all the way through, but George has talked about this a lot. The general philosophy is if you have to pick, you want pristine if you can, but then you're going to pay for it. If you can't have pristine, take a chip over a crack, because a chip won't grow, a crack will. And I put it back. I was embarrassed that I'd even gotten that far. Like, why didn't I do the little ping thing? I've never pinged any of my pieces. I didn't think that would work. I thought that worked on porcelain. It works on these things too. So, lesson learned. So I ended up not getting that piece, but that was the place that I bought the other two pieces. One of them, the smaller one, this was actually hers. And I bought the other piece first, and she was still trying to get me to buy that one. And she gave me a really good price on it. I mean, the two combined, if I paid list price for the two of them, I would have paid over $2,000. So I did get some good, prices. Is always worth, particularly when you're in that kind of a price point, it is worth asking politely if there are discounts available, if there's a discount for cash, if there's all those types of things. She ended up giving me a low enough price that I'm like, you know what? You saved me hundreds, if not, hundreds of dollars buying a piece that wasn't worth what it was marked because it was damaged. And so I'm like, you know what? I owe you. And I bought it. So I'm like I wrote a check. I didn't have enough cash. I wrote a check, and I'm just like, I can't believe I'm writing a check for this much. But I will always remember. And that's it. A crack is structural, and you're hitting it right on the head, Susan. And that's the right. Like, I learned this. I'm not going to say learn the hard way, but I experienced this very, very early on when I was first buying I think it was even before my live sales. Although I was only in business, my resale business, for like 6 months before I started my live sales. But I had bought, it was a little, I want to say it was like a cinnamon, like one of those little porcelain spice jars. I'm not sure if it actually would have slid into a shelf because it was German porcelain and it was decorated on all sides. So it might've just been a standalone piece. Did not realize it had a crack in it. And I literally set it down, and it was just like the experience with the salt glaze. I set it down, and that crack went straight up, and you could hear it. I was just like, okay, that wasn't there before, but it was like the way I set it down just, it did something, and it juggled that crack, and it just took it off. Like, it was just a hairline that I hadn't even seen. It was a luster wear piece, so I hadn't seen it. And so, but it was just the way I set it down. I didn't slam it. I just set it down, but it was just the wrong way that it hit where that crack was, and it sent it shooting up. So something that was completely invisible 2 seconds earlier was now Helen Keller was complaining about it. So I threw it away. I was like, that wasn't even going to go to Goodwill because to me, that was, at that point, it was worthless. So cracks are structural, and you've got to really be careful, because sometimes people will say, oh, it's just a hairline. Yeah, it starts as a hairline, and it doesn't mean you can't have it in your collection, but you need to know it has that, because that was even the dealer was the owner of that piece that was cracked. She's like, I'm really surprised by this. He must not have known it was there, because he's a very honest seller. It was priced as a pristine piece, and with that crack, it wasn't worth what he was asking. So she was going to tell him and make sure he knew. And that's the way a responsible dealer will work. Maybe he bought it and didn't see it either, and maybe he overpaid for it, but you can't just keep pushing that down the line. Or if you do, at some point you have to disclose it, and then somebody will be like, you know what, it is just a hairline. I'm willing to give it a shot. You just have to be really careful. That's when shipping becomes a real issue, because if it's not packaged well, shipping it's going to make the crack grow. But if you're hand carrying it, you can make your own decisions, but then you should be paying less because it is not a pristine piece. I mean, I'm sorry, I'm pulling soapbox out right now. It's like, that's just something it should be common sense that if a pristine piece sells for $100 and something has a hairline crack or even a chip in it, you can't say, well, it's just a little chip. It doesn't really mean anything. It doesn't detract. You can turn it to the side. I want $100. No, because then you have no place to go when you have a pristine piece that is worth $100. The reason it's worth $100 is because it's pristine. If its head has fallen off and someone did a really good glue job, it's no longer pristine. It could appear pristine, but you shouldn't be paying pristine prices. Okay, soapbox is going in the corner. But mistakes get made. So it's one of those guys. I was very happy that owner was really owning up to the fact, hey, we don't do that. We don't play those games here. We're really sorry. So crazing is just stretch marks. Time marks, right? Okay, so crazing is its own, there's arguments whether that would be considered damage or not. You should always disclose it, because same thing, it's not pristine. It's not as if it were there's a term as made, or there's a variations of that term. if it's as made, particularly when you're talking about porcelain, which is when crazing usually comes into play, as made means you picked it up today and that porcelain manufacturer is still making that same piece and you held up another piece, you would not be able to tell the difference between the two pieces. That's pristine. That's as made. You can have some, light vintage wear or vintage condition means, okay, you know what, it had gold trim on it, but there's a little bit of, rubbing on it. Still not pristine, so that it doesn't mean it's damaged, but it's like, if you can tell, it's like, are you regifting this? Like, if you can tell it's not something that came straight from Macy's, you have to recognize that. So crazing is something that can happen to porcelain with the way the glaze was applied. And there is a chemical thing behind it. Not all pieces are going to craze. Some of them will craze unevenly. Sometimes it's because the glaze was applied unevenly. There is fake crazing, like that's something to be aware of, that there are places that, you can tell, and it's very uniform. And it's like, okay, well, that's like crack-a-lure, that's fake. So crazing, it's technically damage. But I will say, for someone that I won't carry things with damage, I'll totally carry something with crazing, because to me, I'm saying it's in vintage condition. I will always disclose that is in vintage condition, and I feel that the crazing adds to the vintage condition. And in some cases, I like it. I'm not gonna say I like it, but I don't mind it, because then I can look at a piece, particularly a piece that's not marked, be like, okay, you know what? I don't exactly know what this is, but the fact there's crazing on this means it's probably not a made in China reproduction piece. It's maybe a made in Japan or something even older. So it kind of underscores the fact that there is some age to it. And there will be a lot of people that want it because it gives that character, it gives that appearance. But there are equal number of people, and I left for anyone who follows my channel, I left a home decor store that was filled with customers that they didn't want any of that vintage. They wanted fake vintage. They wanted manufactured vintage. Like, they wanted that crazing to be completely uniform, because then it had a look. But if one half of the plate had crazing and the other one didn't, oh no, that's bad. Well, it's real. Like, that's life, So you're never going to win an argument about whether it's right or wrong. So the best thing is to disclose it and price accordingly. If I've got something with crazing, even though I don't feel like that's that big of a deal, and I obviously have already pulled out my soapbox a couple of times, I'm still not going to say it's pristine. I'm still not going to say it's $100, so I'm going to charge you $100. No, it's $100, but this one has some crazing to it. And then the next time I find one that maybe doesn't have crazing, maybe I will get $100, because that one is special. Like, the reason it's worth $100 is because it doesn't exist. It's not common. And that's what we're all in this together. And why am I going down this weird little rabbit hole? So hello to Angela. I don't think I saw Angela. I don't think I saw hi to Julia. Art for art's sake. Ars gratia artist. Absolutely, Julia. Cheryl Ross coming in. No problem. No problem. There's no tardiness here. We're just having fun. I hadn't even planned on being this long. So Tippy Wing said she's just curious. I don't know what she was curious about. I have a question. Have you ever sold to someone famous in your YouTube sales? Okay. In my YouTube sales, no. Not to my knowledge anyway. I have it was on eBay, and it was totally stalking. I totally stalked this person. It was a case where I had, fairly early on, I had an item that I put into eBay, and I put it onto eBay, not into Etsy, because it was one of those cases I really, really, really did not know what it was going to be worth. It was a Broadway window card for the show Merrily We Roll Along. And anyone who's a Broadway fan knows that that is the only Stephen Sondheim flop. It ran for literally like 2 weeks. So I picked that up, and unfortunately, hindsight's 2020. Unfortunately, I picked it up and I kept it in its frame, which meant it was really heavy. What I should have done was taken it out of its frame and sold the card by itself, because what the guy who bought it paid for in shipping, he could have reframed it. So it's like, and I think I would have had more people bidding on it, but that the shipping cost was exorbitant. It was over $150 to ship it. It sold for I think it was sold for like 125 or 150. Like, he paid about in shipping what it ended up being, what the item went for. But it went to an address in Hollywood. And hey, you're going to live in Hollywood. You're probably somebody, not necessarily, but if you're spending $325 on a poster for a show that only lasted for 2 weeks, there's some reason that you're buying this. So I did do some research on the name. I didn't recognize his name out of the gate. But it was very easy to Google it, because once I Googled it with Hollywood, he was the producer for a bunch of television shows. One more contemporary that I can't remember off the top of my head, but he was the producer. This is like showing all of us our age. So if you remember back in would have been the 80s, maybe 90s, but I think it was 80s. There was a show called Sisters with Celia Ward and Swoosie Kurtz. That's where I was introduced to both of them. But Swoosie Kurtz does a bunch of Broadway stuff too, or theater stuff. But anyway, that's where I first introduced them. Swoosie Kurtz was also in Bringing Up Daisies, or Pushing Daisies, the show about the dead people. Anyway, he was the producer. So like, he wasn't like famous. And I've never, to my knowledge, had anything purchased to go onto a television set or anything like that. To me would just be super, super cool. I have not had that. But I did like fanboy him a little bit. And it's like, you know what? I just shipped it. Here's your tracking number. Happened to recognize your name, which was a total lie, but happened to recognize your name. Just have to say, loved Sisters, hope things are, doing well. Enjoy the piece. And he was like, oh my God, no one remembers Sisters. I'm like, yeah, well, I do. So yes, that was the closest I had with any sort of brush with fame. And then like in real life, my fame is really within the community. Like I totally fanboyed when I met Scott for the first time at Old Curiosity Shop. I like drooled when I met George from the Antique No Man. So there's stuff like that happened. I met Melody. I don't think she's in here tonight, but she's in the chat. Met Melody for the first time. So it's little things like that. Yeah. So, Trusty, you remember Sisters. It was a great show. I don't remember how long it was on. But it was, and okay, it's Proud American Say it was from the 90s. I was like trying to figure out, like, I couldn't remember if it was before I was in college or after I was in college. So, but it makes sense. It would be the 90s. So that's probably the closest. So let's see. Somebody just recognized Pushing Daisies. Pushing Daisies was a great show. Yeah. It only lasted, if you didn't know that show, that one only lasted, I want to say, I know there's a full season. I want to say I did a season and a half, because I had back in the days when you got the DVDs, I want to say the second season was literally only like 4 or 6 episodes. I don't think it made it through the full second season. You want to know an absolutely ridiculous show? And this is like, okay, true test of the complete television nerds in the house. This also would have been late 80s, probably early 90s though, because I want to say I might have been married by this time, so like maybe mid 90s. A show called Profit, Profit, so like making a profit. It was the most bizarre show that made it freaking awesome. And it was this guy who grew up living in a box in his family's home that had a little hole cut in it that he could watch TV. So he had like this weird obsession with TV, and he became super wealthy and super powerful. And he used that power to get back at his family, like from what happened to him as a child, which I could totally relate. It lasted 3 episodes because it was so dark. It was so like, who was the audience for this show other than me? So yeah, that is called Profit, and that like nobody knows that show. Oh, Cheryl's saying she even worked with Susie in 2001. I saw her she did a theater production of, she played Bonkers, House of Green Leaves. So like I can't say I know her work like that well, but she pops up in a lot of different things, and she was absolutely hilarious in Pushing Daisies. So Chad says he's met Jocelyn. So I was hoping to meet Jocelyn, but I don't really know Jocelyn. Like, I think she's popped onto maybe one of my chats here or there, and I popped onto one of her chats here and there. Like, she's so big. I would have totally loved, because it's just one of those cases. She lives in the town where my daughter was going to college. The problem was the first 2 years that my daughter went there, I wasn't a reseller. So I had no idea who she was, or, for all the times that we visited there, parents' weekend, all that stuff, I might've been able to like meet her. Then when I started reselling was after my daughter went to Germany for the year. So, okay, wasn't going to Carlisle at that point. And then COVID hit, And so I only went, this was the first time I was in Carlisle in 2 years. And I dropped her, I had no way of reaching her. So I just sent her a message on Instagram, didn't hear back from her. And then I saw she posted a video like a week later saying that she was on vacation. So like, yeah, you know, it didn't happen. It would have been neat to meet her in person. But, you know, so probably the largest channel that I've met is I've met Jeffrey and I've met Misty. I met Jeffrey, Misty, Fatbird Finds, and George all on the same trip. So that was kind of like just a sensory overload of all of them. And I also met George, Zeno. Zeno came, was part of the day when I was at George. So I got to meet Zeno from the chat. But at that point, like Barb didn't join that. So I didn't get to, I've never met Barb from Winking Owl. And yeah, so I never met Barb. Because I know they've done a meetup since then, and I wasn't able to participate in that. Met Cindy from Mimi's Treasure Cottage. I did that actually on this trip. I hosted a meetup. There's some videos of that. That was like last July, I think it was, or August. So I met a few people. That Jackie from Crafty Jackie, I met her. Cindy from Mimi's Treasure. Number 17 Vintage, Suzanne. She's in the chat on occasion. I'm trying to think who were the resellers that came. Thrifty You came to that. Michelle of Company Cozy Living, I met her. Corey, the thrifted artist, I met her. There were a bunch of people that came to that meetup. So I did meet a few people on that one. Yeah, Angela, like I just dropped something off at Angela's house. We've yet to meet. So yeah, so there's all kinds of thrifting stuff around here. I actually tried, Angela, there's still a big sign near where Angela lives, is the town where Hager Pottery was. There's a huge Hager sign that's still the original Hager logo, and it says, you know, thank you Hager for 140 years, or thank Carpenters, but whatever the town is, Dundee. I was trying to see if the factory was still there, so I kind of like went around where the sign was. There's like some townhomes, so I was wondering if that's where the factory used to be. Maybe they tore it down and built those townhomes. There was like a limestone barn, but there was no signage or anything, so I couldn't tell what that was part of. And that was next to a really cool looking house, but it didn't look like a factory, so those may have been unrelated. I loved doing that tour. If you guys haven't seen on my channel, I did a tour of the Cambridge Glass Museum. I'm like super stoked to do another like museum or factory tour type video, because it was so fun learning. And then if you didn't, I think I mentioned at my live sale, this past live sale, the people at the Cambridge Glass Museum reached out to me and said, thank you for doing this video. It's so good. We want to put it on our website, because we don't have a video that showcases what the museum has to offer. Now, they did put like one little jab in there. They're like, you showed almost everything we would have wanted to show. I'm like, what did I miss? So I'm not sure, you know, I'm sure they didn't mean anything by that, but it was one of those cases like, I did try and keep the video to a half an hour. So there were definitely some collections that I didn't show. There were some mannequins, like some exhibits set up like with me, like the desks that the owner had, you know, I just didn't think that was all that particularly interesting, and I had nothing to add to it. So I didn't show that. So I don't know. But I thought that was very cool that they wanted to show that. Okay, so next time I go up there, so turn left with it. Oh, see, I turned right. I saw the sign. Well, I was going the other direction. So I was going west. So the sign was on the north side. So I went around that way and couldn't find anything. So I'll have to try that again. Oh, thanks, Sue. Appreciate that. And so, I'm hoping there's a museum that I've always wanted to go to. Okay, yeah, not always, but there's a museum that I'm very interested in, because I do obviously like decorative arts. It's called the Dry House Museum. It's in Chicago. It is a decorative arts museum of a home that was like Mr. Dry House. Then I just haven't had a chance to go. They were closed during COVID. When they reopened, they're only open on Saturdays and Sundays, and I just had a chance, to go into the city. But I looked after I did that video. I'm like, oh, you know what? That might be a really fun one to do. Went straight to their website, and their website says no video allowed. So I'm thinking about sending them a note and just saying, hey, I did this video, and here's a link to it on the Cambridge, once it goes over the Cambridge website. They liked it so much, I'd like to do one with you. Like maybe they'd give me special permission. So it's like, if you don't ask, you don't get. So I might do that, or try and find some of the others. So, so Christy also liked the Cambridge Museum. So Cheryl's saying would fan George, Yvonne, Misty, and Laura Caldwell. All right, I have to plead ignorance. I don't know who Laura Caldwell is. I apologize to Laura Caldwell. I mean, no disrespect, but I don't know who that is. So I follow a lot of different branches. Like I'd love to meet Kat the nurse thrifter. I was trying to meet Tim from over the years. I actually met Tim from over the years before. I met him on another trip to DC. I was hoping to do a video with him this time, because I think last time we just got a hi, that was it. But our schedules did not mix. But I technically have met Tim before. And so, yeah, George, and I know Yvonne, obviously, and I've met Misty. Misty's so great. She's so gracious. She helped me so much building up my channel. So yeah, I did not have a chance. That was actually the weekend that Jeffrey was doing his grand opening pop-up thing. That was literally the weekend that my daughter was graduating. So let's see, which one do I pick? So I went to my daughter's. And so, yeah, it's I almost felt like I was tongue-tied when I met Scott for the first time, because I've just learned so much from his channel. And it was the same thing meeting Jeffrey. Like anybody who watched my very early channels, I talked about Jeffrey all the time because Jeffrey taught me everything. And I think he always felt like I was making fun of him, and I totally wasn't. He taught me everything. Like when I started building my business, I was building it based on the philosophy of Jeffrey. It's like, what does he like to collect? What doesn't he like to collect? What does he do well with? What does not he do? All of that kind of stuff. I really used that because I just really liked his approach. So when all of a sudden I met him in person, it was just like you're meeting your idol. And it's just, it's shocking. I think Nate, all of us would fanboy if we got to meet you. So, I think you're like one of the biggest celebrities here. Crazy Lamp, maybe you need to see LL. So Crazy Lamp Lady, if that's what you mean. She was also one of my early videos, and earlier channels I watched. And I'll be perfectly honest, starting a YouTube channel was somewhat predicated. Like I didn't even get that idea from Jeffrey. It was really more from watching Jocelyn. So I'm like, well, from a business standpoint, this is fascinating. And I had no idea how hard it was going to be. But I followed so many different people, and to be honest, I was picking different things up from different people and trying to use them. And I still do. I mean, I give full credit to the mystery boxes that are so popular in my live sale. Hey, that's Fatbird Finds. They didn't create the concept of mystery boxes, but they created the concept of introducing mystery boxes as part of a live sale. Totally grateful for them for that. My style of shop with me videos, I can't do. Some of the channels have such amazing shop with me videos. I knock stuff over. See, I almost swore again. Some of you caught me on the live sale. I totally swore, but I'm not swearing. I would totally knock stuff over. And so I'm not coordinated. So and actually it was the weekend I was with George and Jeffrey and Misty and Laura and Mary Beth. They all had different equipment of how they did it. I'm like, oh, okay, I need some of this equipment. Now, Laura's equipment, Mary Beth's equipment, she might as well be filming the 11 o'clock news, because she's got the little gimbal thing for the steady cam. I'm like, yeah, I don't need that, but I at least got the little tripod. I got the external microphone. And I've really started kind of looking at what I liked about George's videos and really kind of started replicating that. It's like a mini deep dive, and not everyone likes that style. And that's fine. Everyone's going to give you something different. So with mine, I don't do as much of the scanning of the shelves, although I've tried to introduce some of that as I land on the piece I'm showing. But my idea is I want to be able to show one piece, maybe mainly because that's what I like to do. I do like to educate. And so it's easier if I'm focusing on one thing. But the simplistic reason is I'm going to knock everything over if I try and do more. This idea of watching through a camera and then picking something up on the other side. Yeah, I'm just not that coordinated. So So let's see. I totally fell behind. So Sue's okay. So also everyone's talking about fangirling, so I'm not the only one. Pam would be fun to meet as well. She's geographically she's pretty far away from me. Like I'm in the Midwest. I'm kind of central, but she's definitely pretty far from me. And anybody from California, like that's not going to happen unless they make a road trip. Unless they come to the Midwest. Let's go back and see what else I was missing. So Daniel, I should be able to run into someday. If nothing else, I'm starting to travel for my real job, and he works in the industry that I sell to. So if nothing else, I'll show up and try and make him buy something from me. Mississippi's probably also not on my hit list anytime soon. I do have a 9-state territory. So this is something that I've kind of, once we get back into regular travel, maybe not. Like I've got a day job that I have to make sure I do that. But like I cover Illinois, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Iowa, and Missouri, and then Kansas, Nebraska, North Dakota, and South Dakota. So I have a 9-state territory. I have many customers in many of those different states. So it'd be one of those cases like maybe I could say, okay, my last appointment, I get done at like 4 or 5. Could I, schedule like if once here Goodwills have not gone back to their regular hours. Like in regular days, they were open till 9. Now they're only open to like 7 or 8. It kind of depends. Like if something were to go back to saying that they're open till 9, like I could say, hey, I'm going to show up at such and such Goodwill outside of Minnesota. Anybody who wants to show up, I'll be there. And it's like, not that I'm a big draw, but for at least people that are geographically local could, maybe try and do, they would do like a mini meetup, but a full day of meetup was very, very stressful. And I'm not sure I'm up for that again. So if somebody else wants to host an all-day meetup or a weekend meetup, I'm more than happy to try and squeeze in and actually visit. But to host something, it's going to be a little bit tighter. So let's see. So Angela's talking. Peterson's talking about Angela's air conditioning. Hamlet saying would love to meet Daniel. See, Daniel, you're super popular. Oh, okay. So Canada's still pretty much into a lockdown. I just found out, if you came late, I barely made it in time to set up for the video, which is why I didn't have the stoneware pieces. We are in rehearsals for my next show, and we couldn't do the show that we were supposed to do. We were supposed to do Matilda the musical. We couldn't do that because of restrictions and all that kind of stuff. So we're turning it into more of a musical review cabaret. But they announced during rehearsals today that June 11th here in Illinois, on June 11th, there are supposed to be new guidelines issued. And they seem to be changing, pretty often, but like the official guidelines are supposed to be reissued on the 11th. So we're hoping that means things will open up a little bit more, and which for the theater means you can sell more tickets. So at this point, we're restricted to only being able to sell 100 seats in the theater, but we're hoping if they loosen things up a little bit, because at this point, there's a question mark, according to the box office manager there at the theater. She said, technically, if somebody is fully vaccinated, they're not supposed to count against the max, but they're unclear of, does that mean you can sell 100 seats to unvaccinated people and then the other 64 seats can go to vaccinated people? Or does just the proportion change? Like, it's very, very unclear. And businesses, my own company, everyone is struggling with how to, do it. And it changes state by state. Like, my company's based in Pennsylvania, so they have a totally separate set of rules than here in Illinois. But June 11th, there's supposed to be new guidelines. And then they also said July 4th, or for the 4th of July weekend, they're supposed to issue more guidelines. And so maybe things will change for that holiday weekend, which will be the weekend before we open. So there's 2 chances they might be able to open things up. Now, that's in Illinois. I don't know if that's a CDC thing or if that's just an Illinois thing. So that's what I've heard as of like 2 hours ago. So we shall have to see that. Yeah, so Annette's in Southern Illinois and Daniel's in Southern Illinois. Barb is in Southern Illinois, and Jeffrey, Michelle Belfield, Michelle Ann, she's in Southern Illinois. Trying to think, like, who do I ship to that I have to charge Illinois tax? But yeah, quite a few people in Southern Illinois, and then we got some Northerners too. I don't remember. Proud American, are you in Iowa? I can't remember where Proud American is. So let's see. So Pamela's hoping that things will loosen by the 14th. Oh, so okay. So Susan was just saying Mississippi. Okay, has lifted pretty much all restrictions. Now, I will say, driving from Illinois, I made it as far east as Philadelphia, dipped down into Maryland, and then came back through Ohio and Indiana again. It was sporadic. Like even as states like Maryland technically had lifted all of their restrictions. So Chad, you might be able to speak on that. When Dawn and I were together, she's like, really there are no restrictions, but some of the stores we went into were still asking people to wear a mask, which I was more than happy to do so. But then as I traveled through Ohio, who also didn't, I believe Ohio had already lifted their mandate. I know Indiana had. There were stores that I would go into. I think maybe Indiana was more a little bit different. Indiana, there were some that there were the no signs at all. So it was like kind of like back to normal. And others were still saying, we don't, like one said, we don't care what the state said. If you're in this building, you must wear your mask. Okay, fine. I got my mask, no problem. And then I go in and nobody in the staff was wearing their mask. Okay, then why do you have a huge sign? Because you're probably turning people away, because there would be people that don't want to come in and don't want to wear their mask and they think you're being super difficult. So it was very odd. So I was still maintaining my social distances. I was still wearing my mask. I was still trying to be responsible, because Illinois, like my barber, I made sure I got a haircut before I left, because my barber's restrictions were, if you leave the state, you're not allowed to come into their building for another 2 weeks. You have to self-quarantine for 2 weeks. Well, I needed a haircut, so I guess it happened before I left. So there were just different interpretations, and now that has changed. So it changes a lot. And I had heard that Canada was in lockdown, but I don't know if there's any notes of when that's going to reopen. So California, Sue is saying reopening June 15th. Okay, so that's good. And then. So Chad just said, so Maryland has lifted restrictions, but some stores will still ask you to, yeah. And Illinois, I think we still technically have a mask mandate. It's just things change so much. And then it's difficult because you've got, I'm fully vaccinated, so I should have my own level of restriction or like looseness, but how do you prove that? I will say I did go into a store one time and they specifically asked to see my vaccination card, which I had in the car. I didn't have it on me. I had it in the car. So I ran out and grabbed it, and that was fine. And I'm not sure why, and I'm not sure what would have happened if I didn't have one. But then they were saying, if, as long as you had your card, you could come in without a mask. So I don't know. It like just changes. Oh, so Canada's going to reopen when they get enough vaccinated. Oh, okay. That was actually a sign that I saw too. I want to say it was in Pennsylvania, that said, we will allow masks to be dropped once 70% were vaccinated. And I'm like, oh, I don't even know how much has been vaccinated in Illinois. So I'm not sure what kind of structure is there. So Florida, everything is open and stores can't enforce it. And that's actually the problem, where if you don't have the state to enforce it. And I like back when I was still in the vintage booth, we technically had the state mandate to back us up, and there were still people coming in saying, no, I don't have to wear one. I still remember the woman, she's like, I would think you would trust your customers enough who are trying to spend their money here to know whether we have COVID or not. And I'm not wearing my mask. And I was like, and I'm not trying to get into a mask like pro con thing, because I don't care. I have my own opinions, and nothing you say is going to change. Nothing I say is going to change you. It's one of those cases that it's like, in a polite society, there's just things you've got to do. Like I just feel like people that don't want to wear their masks, like, okay, well then maybe I don't want to wait for you to cross the crosswalk. So I'll just run you over. So, there are laws, there are guidelines, and there's just social mores. And, if everyone feels more comfortable, that's where the rehearsal was. Most of us were fully vaccinated, but kids in Illinois, at least, kids cannot get vaccinated. And this show, God help me, has a bunch of kids in it. So luckily my character hates kids, so I'm totally method acting, but they can't get vaccinated. So you suddenly have these kids. So it's like, well, if they have to wear masks, then should all the adults wear masks? And it's like, you could sit there and argue back and forth, but the theater said, this is the policy. When you're in the building, you have to be in a mask in a group setting, period. Okay. And if you don't want to do it, then you're not in the show. Like, no one's forcing you to do it, but then you just don't get to participate. So everyone has their own opinions and their beliefs, and I'm not trying to argue or change anybody's. It's just life has to go on. and we all need to get along. And I think that just goes for just about anything political, because that's, I don't know why the masks have become political, but anything political, it's like, trust me, I've got beliefs all over the map, as most of us do. Well, you're not going to change my mind. I'm not going to change yours. So let's just love vintage. So actually, I'm like talking forever. Why am I talking about this? So a couple other things I wanted to show. I don't know, what do I want to show? So I've been talking forever. Actually, I'm going to show you one of my fun things. I got this in, this was Pennsylvania. Yes, this was in Pennsylvania. I do not believe I have shown this in any of my live hauls. But what was special about this is I picked it up in Pennsylvania. It is a Culver set. It's not really showing the color very well. It's got a green, it's like alternating green and gold panels. It's the cocktail mixer with the mixing stirrer and 6 of the cocktail glasses. It also had a chip and dip set. And when I went to the Cambridge Glass Museum, I put this at the end of the video. Some people may not have seen the video or may not have watched all the way to the end. But the Cambridge Glass Museum, the way they make some of their money beyond admissions, which was like $12 or $15, it was nothing. They have a gift shop, and the gift shop sells glassware. And they primarily sell Cambridge glassware. So there's a cool room that I videotaped. It was toward the end of the video. They have like the original sample room door from the building before it was destroyed in the 50s. They have some of the original tables. They have the original clock. So they recreated this sample room, and everything in the sample room is for sale. It's part of the gift shop. So it's super cool. And then they have another gift shop, which is out by the checkout area, where you pay for your admission. And that one had non-Cambridge items. So they made money selling glass. And I'm like, well, where do you get all this stuff? And they said, well, a lot of it's from it. The museum is run by the Cambridge Collectors Club. So a lot of it is members that just donate their old collections, or when somebody passes away, they bequest their collections, or just get donations. And so I had the chip and dip set, that tray that matched this, probably was worth $45, $50 by itself, but it didn't have the spoon. So it was one of the style that had the little hole in the side with a chain that then would loop onto the spoon for the dip bowl in the middle. It had the hole and it had the ring, but it didn't have the chain or the spoon that were original to it, which I didn't mind. I mean, when I bought the set, it was all included. And I'm like, I'd still probably be able to get $30, $40 for it, maybe. I donated it to them, and they're like, why? Like, they knew that I was from out of town. I did that video, we talked. And so they're like, why were you carrying this in your car? And I'm like, oh, well, I was going to sell it, and now here it is. So this will end up being something. This will probably go up onto Etsy, because this exact set with the exact glasses was last selling for over $100. So I doubt this is going to go into a live sale, but I wanted to show it because I thought it was cool. I'm patting myself on the back. I thought it was cool that I gave something to the Glass Museum, but I really say it because if anyone's in Ohio, if anyone's really into Cambridge glass, whatever, just think about that. They're a 501c3 organization, so they will give you a letter saying that you've donated to their museum. It's a win-win. Like, they can make some more money. I showed them in another video, and they're just out of reach, but I bought a little, the Bridge Hound, the little glass dog that held a pencil. And I also got it actually was a Westmoreland salt dip with the original spoon in the box. I don't have any, I have a salt cellar collection, but I don't have any in boxes. So I picked that up, and I paid more than I would have paid on eBay, but I didn't even know the Bridge Hounds existed, and I was fascinated by them. So it's one of those cases that it was almost like when I sell things for the fundraiser, I don't want people to get too hung up to say, well, that paperweight's not worth $20. Like, look, you just paid for a dental treatment for, well, probably one tooth of a dachshund. Like, it's raising money for a charity, so, you don't get into super, like, we're not Kmart. And look what happened to Kmart. So that was fun. This was actually really cool. This will probably be, I'll probably put this up I haven't decided yet, but this will probably end up going up on eBay during one of my live sales. It is a Cambridge, by sheer coincidence, it is a Cambridge car vase with the holder. So that would have been mounted to the dashboard of the car. And then you've got this glass insert to hold on to it. Now, I first heard about glass vases from, of all people, Crazy Lamp Lady. She was talking about them, but when I was at Cambridge, they had one of these in this Crackalure finish. And when I was then at an antique shop in Ohio, it wasn't in Cambridge, but it was in Ohio, I saw this. I'm like, oh, I know what that is. And they go for decent money. I did pay up for it. Like this, again, we are not at garage sales prices here. But this isn't going to sell for a garage sale price. This is going to sell for some good bucks. So that was kind of fun because it was related to the visit to Cambridge. But I didn't even pick it up there. Let's see, what else did I get? A little silly thing. I do like my eBay store. I don't really do a lot on eBay. These new auction things I'm doing are relatively new. But the one thing that I've always had success selling on my eBay store is Mary Engelbright. I don't know why. I think most of this comes out of Missouri, so it's not like I'm super close to that. But these things go for, like, these little kitschy things, most of them like made in China, go for surprisingly good money. I sold a wall plaque for like $50, and I think I'd paid $5. Like it was, and so this little, I think it's technically Christmas, because I would say that's like a Christmas candle. It says the word hope. So I haven't listed it yet, but that's probably something that'll just go up on my eBay shop as, you know, an eBay piece. I didn't really show, I don't want to give her short shrift. Jan Goodwin had donated beyond the dog that I showed you. She donated some other stuff. She donated Hummel. She donated a cool, what was this one? James Kent mug. So, like, again, these are all things that'll go for the, actually she donated an item that'll be the first money that I set aside for the Just One More Dachshund Rescue. She donated a Picard toothpick holder with the gold design. And I have a collection of Picard gold. And this is going into my collection. And I'm paying $20 for it, which I would never pay on eBay. But because it's going to a charity, I will donate $20 to get this and put it in my personal collection. So too bad you can't have it. It's mine. But that just was like a total coincidence that she donated something that I personally collect. So I'm buying it, and that'll be the first money that goes into the Just One More Dachshund cash. Christmas stuff. I actually probably will do a Christmas in July. I'm not original. I'm just, I'll do it like everybody else. I bought a bunch of Christmas stuff, Christmas stitching kits, because, I'm buying them in May. They were relatively inexpensive, but I'm trying to get to this one piece because I actually did a speed dial to Katie to figure this one out. I got this box. It is a flower arranging kit. And I picked this up, and I paid more for it than I would have wanted to. Katie's a bad influence. But it's got the original Vogue clay in it, and the clay is still in here. It has the original candlestick holders that would go into the flower frog, and one of the original flower frogs. So the original list, it showed it had two flower frogs. This is the only one that's original. So I will sell this as a set. But when I bought it, there were two other flower frogs included, including this one, which is the mesh one, which I thought was the one, this 3 3/8 mesh holder. Well, that ain't anywhere near 3 3/8. So I think somebody put this in here thinking it was part of the original kit, but it's not. So I'm going to sell this separately because I really like the size of this one. It's just a really nice small size. And then another one which is totally fallen into the bottom of the pit here. It's like a little pin. Here it is. It's like a tiny little rectangular pin type one, really small. So that was also tucked in here, but that was never part of the kit. So those will just be part of a regular sale. Like that'll just go into a live sale. That's not going to go to the Dachshund sale. So I got that. Let's see, we've got some chats. I haven't been paying attention to the chat. So I've got Katie's a bad influence. Yep. Enabler. That's totally it. Yep. Katie takes full blame. So and Jan's here. Oh, I've seen yours. Hopefully you saw me showing some of your stuff. Didn't know you were on. So yeah. So let's see. Since she's here, I didn't show everything. She's Soviet pin, which I really like. So she donated that into the collection as well. So that'll be part of the Doxie fundraiser. She won a bunch of ephemera and photographs. This was a fun one. She takes full blame. She stole this dish from the Borscht and Tears. So we've got some restaurant ware china that'll go into. And so like something like that is probably a case where if I get other people that donate restaurant ware, it'd probably get mixed into that. Everyone will get credit for what, the portion that they donated. But as opposed to having 5 individual items sell individually, either on my live sale or in an eBay listing, I would group them together and hope that because it's a fundraiser, it would still gather enough money. But it's more of a simplicity thing. So some things will get combined. I forgot like what's behind me. So what's behind me is another collection. Now, some of these I think I might have shown in my live sale or in some of the haul videos, but this is my newest, well, I'll just say fascination. I was almost say another word. My newest fascination. These are punch boards from the 40s and 50s. Some of them are older. They're like little gambling lottery type things. So in this case, you would pay 5 cents and you would punch out a hole. And when you punch it through, it comes out the back and there's a little piece of paper all wadded up. And if you had the number 100 or 102, you would receive $1. If you had 102 or 103, you receive $1. So you'd see, you would receive money basically for getting any number between 101 and 107. And then if you get the last punch on the board, you also get $1. So that means, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So however many punches are on here, like 150 punches, 7 of them will win you money. The 143 of them will not. So you will paid 5 cents, just like a scratch off. You don't get anything. So they're just really cool in the graphics. And I thought it's such a huckster item. I picked some of these up on this along the way, but admittedly, some of these came from eBay, even on the trip, because I'm like, okay, I'm in love with these. This one was a Coca-Cola one. I told Katie, I'm like, sorry, she can't have it. They're not particularly valuable. Some of them are really expensive. This is a different type. This is only like a little sheet of cardboard. So this one is you punch out your favorite girl's name, and then the winning one gets a 6-bottle carton of Coke. So, you'd set that up. This is my newest one. Like this one, I admittedly did not get on the road trip, but I want to show it because it's part of the collection. Let me take it out of the glare. This one was a weird case that sometimes you just don't know where you're going to find these things or find parts of your collection. I was trying to find a book. They are salesmen's catalogs that sell, that they would have sold the different designs that are available. And those salesman catalogs are very expensive. So if you ever find one, I shouldn't have told you they're very expensive, but if you ever find one, I would be interested in buying one because the ones that are on eBay right now are literally all of them are over $100. So I was looking for them on like Abe books and thrift books to just see if they were available. And this one, it came back that they actually had a punch board. I'm like, oh, okay. I wouldn't have thought a bookstore would have had a punch board, but they had one. And check this one out. It has Hitler on it with the swastika. And it was super cheap. Like they didn't even have a picture of it on the post. Like I didn't know what it was going to look like, but they described it and they're like, take a punch, a knockout receives 20 pieces, uppercut receives 10 pieces. This was to receive candy. They tied killing Hitler to getting candy. So you'd pay a penny to get a punch. And then when you got this little, so again, this little cardboard one, when you popped it out, it would say, if it said it was a knockout, you'd receive 20 pieces of candy. If you got a left hook, it'd give you 5 pieces of candy. A slap, receive 1 piece of candy. So the style of board would be manufactured by those companies, the ones I was looking for the sales catalogs for. This whole section would be white. It would just be blank. So you would order the design that you liked, and then you would pay them to silk screen whatever you wanted. So this was a candy company that decided that the best way to make money and to get people to, you know, fork over a penny is to put Hitler and a swastika on there and try to give him a right jab. And then I really liked the fact that then put in there, buy U.S. defense bonds and stamps. Like, this is just, it's so of its time. It's and it's in pristine condition. And I literally want to say I paid $5 for it. Like, I paid more than that for every single one of them. I paid more than that for the little Coca-Cola one. No offense, Katie. $5, really? And then they had another one that was $450. Like, okay, I don't understand your pricing, but I had grabbed that one. Super, super excited. And that was just a fun one. The other ones, I think this I might have actually shown in a video, but I'll just show them. So this one I thought was kind of funny because it's literally for Easter eggs. So number 1 receives 20 Easter eggs. Now, I don't know if these were like literally eggs or if this would have been like chocolate eggs. I don't know. But what I'm on the lookout for are the ones that none of these have been punched. You know, you can get some of them that they've been used, but then that means the paper's gone. I will never punch these. You know, I aesthetically, I like the looks of them without being punched. You know, this one I paid 26 for. So they're not like, again, they're not expensive. They're not cheap. Well, the $450 one, that was a pinup one. So that was like something Vinny would have liked, but I'm sorry, I'm not spending $450 for myself, let alone Vinny. So, you know, the theme dictates a lot. What I really liked about this one is, again, when these were sold, they were sold blank because you would buy these. They were called trade stimulators. So once again, a total huckster thing. They were called trade stimulators, and they were all kind of like, they're mechanical stimulators, like little miniature slot machines and just all kinds of things. Basically anything you could put as a general store or, you know, grocery store or liquor store owner, something you could put on the counter to encourage someone to give you 5 cents. It'd be like a little game or something, and then they could get something in return. So when they were made like this, they were made plain, and then they were like, with the white places would be empty. And so then when you purchased it as the seller, hey, Vinny, yeah, I agree, 450 was outrageous. You could then customize this to whatever you were selling. So whoever bought this sold, or they were, Bauer's Peanut Crunch Company. And so all the stuff in red and blue, so like all numbers ending in 0 are free. All numbers ending in 1 pay 1 cent. So this one worked a little bit differently. You didn't know how much it was going to cost you. You could actually pay up to 5 cents for your punch, but you could also receive a pound package of Bauer's Crispy Peanut Crunch. So this was kind of like a give and take system. So unlike the other ones that said, give me a penny and you get a punch, this one's like, you'll take your punch, but then depending on what you get, that's what you pay in your punch. But then if you get one of these numbers, you then get the 1 pound package of Bauer's Crispy Peanut. But you can see that's handwritten. So it's handwritten at the top, handwritten in all the white, because that they bought the blank and then customized it for their own. But look at, it's got the little, it's like a little Vinny picture. That's not what Vinny looks like, but you know, little pinup. So you still have the attractive, you know, the art. And so whether you were a tiny little grocery store or you were like a big ticket liquor, you know, outlet, you could have the exact same punch board, and then you just customize it to whatever you were looking for. So that is my newest collection. Is my newest fascination. I'm dying to get, I've already, the Box SF is a great Instagram channel. If you guys don't follow that, they currently have, I was asking if they had any, and they said they've got hundreds of punch boards plus all the catalogs. So I'll probably go broke very soon. But I'm like, oh, I didn't see it on your website. And she's like, the website has like 5,000 items and they have 15 million items in their store. So if you're in San Francisco, go to the Box SF. If you're not in San Francisco, follow them on Instagram. They're also doing some videos too. It's, I think, is it Katie? Is it the Box SF or is it the SF Box? I can't remember. Absolutely. It's like total eye candy. If you're into ephemera and stuff like that, they're total eye candy for their Instagram. They just show us a bunch of stuff. So let's see. So So Vinny's punching himself, so we're good there. Yeah, thanks, Vicky. It's not necessarily for everyone. Like I said, when I saw them the first time, I actually did a video, as a shop with me video in Oswego, Illinois. And if you watch that portion of the video, I'm literally like just exploring and discovering these for the first time. And I even say, I'm like, this might be something I need to look into. And so I will say, I don't think I brought it in. I think it's still in my car because I literally just got it. I was like, oh, I should do this. But because that store is what introduced me to the concept, even though I know I could get them cheaper someplace else, I went back to that store once I started this collection and I bought one of the ones I showed in that video. And it was one of those, I don't want to use the term, it's an ethical thing. Like, I don't know how to describe it, but it's just one of those, like, yeah, I could have found it and then gone on eBay, and I did. I mean, I found others on eBay, but I'm like, if I hadn't seen this shop and this vendor at the shop curate their shop in this way to offer these items, and the prices were totally fair, they just weren't as cheap as sometimes you could find on eBay because it's a global marketplace. Like, if it hadn't been for them, I wouldn't even know these existed. And suddenly I'm like totally in a rabbit hole searching for these and like looking for them and trying to, like, I don't want to go broke buying them, but trying to find fun and cool ones for a good price. I owed it to them to buy one of theirs. So I went back and I did. And like, I think the one I bought, I apologize, I'm almost positive it's sitting in the back seat of my car. I think I paid, it was either $27 or $29. This one, the one with the Bowers peanut, I want to say that was 26. The Easter egg, no, maybe that was 27. Easter egg, I think, was like 26. I mean, I got these at all different places. That's clearly, and the one that I bought in Oswego is about the size of this one. So it's a totally fair price. But I've also gotten some, I'm waiting for some of them to come in. I've also gotten some on eBay for like 10, so they're out there. Ooh, I remember Pachinko, Nate, Aussie Nate. I had a Pachinko game growing up in the 70s. We had it in our, I had it in my bedroom, and I had no concept that was any sort of gambling. Like, I just thought it was like a weird pinball machine. And I totally agree, Julia. You don't know what you're going to find until you start looking for it. And I put that into a couple of my videos lately, where it's like, you don't know, I don't know I needed this in my life. Like, I didn't even know to collect that. I did a video a couple months ago of what is now my Huckster collection. I'm Trusty Huckster. I'm Trusty Huckster Mercantile. I didn't know that there were things out there I could collect that actually said Huckster. And that collection is so much fun to build, because this is also like a weird thing because of this trip. Thanks, Katie. This weird thing because of this trip. There are business. If you missed that video, it's not a big deal. But if you missed that video, what my collection is it's stuff that actually has the words Huckster on it. And a lot of people don't even know what Huckster is, but Huckster is usually a derogatory term or pejorative term for salesman. But that's why I'm Trusty. I'm Trusty Huckster. Most states require, particularly back in the day, would require you to have some level of a license. Like, so if you were going to go to door-to-door salesman, if you were going to be on the boardwalk in Atlantic City, like, you needed to pay the city a certain amount to say, look, I'm a legitimate business, and therefore I have the right to sell and collect money. And so you got a license. Most states called those license peddlers. They called them peddler license or push cart license or cart license or just a business license. Like, they just have their own terms. Pennsylvania and now Ohio and maybe New Jersey are the only 3 states that I have come across that actually issued Huckster licenses. So I have little badges. They look like police badges that say Huckster license. And my oldest one I just got off of eBay. I just came in last week. It's upstairs with the rest of the collection. That one is dated 1903. And then I also have some as recently as the 1980s, where it would look like a literal, like a license plate that you would have attached to your cart. So I've got another metal one that came in from 1943. So I love when stuff comes from the middle of the war. I didn't even know that existed until I just stumbled across it. So yeah, it's always fun to keep your eyes I'll go, and this is because I now have so many different collections, looking out into my living room. I have a collection of swung glass. I have a collection of deco flower frogs, glass flower frogs. I have a collection of Austrian Nouveau secessionist porcelain. I've got Picard gold. I've got Stouffer Studios gold. I've got art pottery. I've got art glass. I've got Ephraim pottery. It's impossible. Then you got the stuff behind me. It's impossible to go shopping and be like, okay, I'm going to buy anything I want. So I will go into stores and I will just be like, okay, today is my goal to look for smalls, and I will look for just the huckster licenses. My point when I went down this weird path was when I ask for huckster licenses here in Illinois, people look at me like I have two heads. They have no idea what I'm talking about. They don't like, even, I don't even know if Illinois issued licenses at all. Like, hell, it's Illinois. We just do whatever we want. Live free or die. No, that's New Hampshire. But when I was in Pennsylvania, every antique store, and I was actively looking for huckster licenses because I knew that they were issued in Ohio and Pennsylvania. So like every antique store in Ohio and Pennsylvania, I asked every single dealer, or not every dealer, but like the owner, every single one of them knew exactly what I was talking about, and nobody had a single one. I did not get a single huckster license on that entire trip. So it was like a goal. I didn't get a flower frog on that entire trip. I came across literally like 2 or 3, but there were ones I already owned. So I didn't end up getting any of those. There were like certain collections, like I must add to my collections, but I would just change as I went. I'd have different modes, and it changes the way you shop, because if you're looking for 19th century stoneware, you're looking in a very different place than if you're looking for 1960s swung glass vase. So sometimes I would jump, like all of a sudden I'd be looking for the stoneware in Pennsylvania and I would see a swung glass vase. I don't think I added to my swung glass vase collection at all, but you'd see it. So you'd kind of look, but for the most part, like you just have only a certain amount of time. And so that's why sometimes my videos were a little bit weird, because I would be in like shopping mode and I'd forget to record anything. So you never know. So let's see. So Cheryl's saying something that's confusing Katie. I am a total shopaholic, and I absolutely own that. It's a therapy. Like during COVID, I spent so much money building, like buying from live sales, building collections, starting new collections. I didn't have a collection of copper luster before COVID started. I didn't have a collection of I didn't have a collection of the Picard Gold or the Stouffer Studios. I didn't have a collection of the Stellmacher Austrian. All of that stuff came because I just started like looking around, like, hey, what do I like? And it was total retail therapy. We all know the vacuum hucksters. Yep, that's I was just watching The Help, which is just like a little eye candy of vintage stuff too. But she makes a line, though I can't remember. I've only seen it a couple times. I don't remember the character names, but the one that nobody likes, the slutty one. She goes back and she's like, they just left me standing on the doorstep like the vacuum salesman. And I'm just like these flashbacks. I'm like, that's what that's how people would treat salesmen. That's why in my household, I talked about this in my video, that's in my household, salesmen were hucksters, like in a very negative way. Like salesmen were always out to get you. You couldn't trust them. They were always, going to win. And the only way they would win is if you would lose. And and I'm like, life's too short to have that philosophy. And then some people, as I'm into my adult life, they're like, well, it's because you're a Libra. I'm very big into the balance. Like I can't win if I know you're losing. Like I won't feel that's a win. I'll feel guilty about it. So like I always have to make sure there's some equity there. I'm still going to sell and I'm still going to make a profit. Like I'm not going to feel guilty about making a profit, but I'm never going to cheat somebody. Like I'm not going to take advantage of a situation just because I would feel bad afterwards. But I know people, like in my adulthood, people that I've worked with totally uphold that huckster philosophy and the reason people don't like salesmen. I sell into the library industry, and this was a previous company. But I was talking to a guy that he was like totally excited that he literally got kicked out of a library by a librarian for being too aggressive. So it's like, okay, we all know Daniel. Daniel's a librarian. You all can think of your own stereotypes of librarians. What do you have to do to upset a librarian enough to have them kick you out of the library? Like that's their job, is to buy stuff. And he was just so aggressive and so just vicious about like trying to squeeze every penny. They literally kicked him out, and he was proud of it. I'm like, I would go and hide under a desk. Like I would be mortified if I got kicked out of a library. So, different strokes for different folks. And, but the vacuum hucksters were definitely, the Fuller brush salesman. Like, I don't even know what a Fuller brush, I don't even know what a Fuller brush was, but just the different jokes, like all the different, what the Fuller brush, all the different salesmen, door-to-door salesmen. And then you also get the other one, a relationship with a different person in every port, that idea. Henry Higgins is My Fair Lady. Harold Hill, is all they're hucksters, and that's why that name sticks around. So let's see. So yeah, we were all joking that Katie was an enabler for me. Oh, no. I totally own. I have become an absolute enabler for Katie. I'd show up in a booth and I'm like, oh, hey, Katie, here's a picture of all their, gramophone tins. Want any? And she'd be like, I want that one. I want that one. I want that one. And I want that one. I'm like, okay. So, I'm not encouraging being anyone's personal shopper, but particularly in a time of COVID, I've got the benefit of crossing into other areas. In other areas, something might be more common than it is down in Florida. And so I knew what she was looking for, and I came across stuff that she hadn't seen, and she ended up buying a couple things from me. So, so let's see. So Cheryl's saying, everyone's talking about hitting themselves. And let's see. So a huckster, well, a lot of people they really still don't know what a huckster is. Like that's, some people I have to explain. I've had to explain what the word trusty meant, which I'm sorry, that isn't that like in a little, C. Dick and Jane book. Like, but people are trying, they think they overthink it. And they think it's like a bank trustee, like with 2 E's. I'm like, no, just trusty. Like you can trust me, but trusty huckster totally blows people's mind. There's other YouTubers, resellers, live sale people that I absolutely love and adore. We're not besties or anything, but we all know each other. They try and say my name, and it's like when I was trying to say thrift or junk or vintage hunter, I would like 50-50 whether I was going to be able to get it out. People just can't say huckster, and then mercantile was the one that surprised me. There was a short period of time when live sales first started. Like I created a hashtag, there is no H, because so many people were spelling mercantile with an H because they thought it was related to merchant, which that in itself makes sense. But it's like, but it's mercantile. How do you not know that word? And there were tons of people that did not know the word mercantile. So I was told by some fairly important YouTubers, like, you should change your name. And I refused to change my name. But the one thing I did concede to is I changed my email address for live sales, went from Trusty Huckster Mercantile, which was super long and, just filled with landmines that I didn't know existed, to THM Vintage, to try to make it a little bit easier. But yes, there is. And like, once you hear the word, you'll stumble across it. It's particularly in the vintage world. It's in old books, it's in old movies. It's definitely not a term that's as common anymore, even as neither is mercantile, but it's all fun. So let's see. I've already been on here for 2 hours. What have I been talking about? I've just been rambling. I don't know. I still have to pack. I have to pack orders and ship tomorrow. So I think we're going to try and wrap things up. I really didn't even show everything I wanted to show. But I think I showed the bulk of it, like the most important stuff. I did have some fun things, like, some things that'll show up in a live sale. I had a set of records from Sesame Street. I thought these were fun. Going for a Ride and I Love Trash. Gotta love Oscar. There's like 4 sets of books about numbers with the count. And what was this one? Sesame Street, just Sesame Street book and record. And then Shapes and Up and Down. These were all I put together. I want to say they were all dated 1970 for the Children's Television Workshop. You know what? I do have one more thing I want to show you, because this is probably going to show up in a live sale pretty soon. If not mine, I will announce here that I will be doing a joint sale with Katie on Katie's channel in a week and a half. And these will probably make an appearance on Katie's channel because I think it's kind of got the Katie vibe going to these. It is. I won't sell this. Unfortunately, the suitcase is in pretty crappy condition, but I picked this up in Pennsylvania. I picked this up outside of Pittsburgh when I was with Rebecca from Kitschy and Bitchy. It's in the case is in very rough shape, so I will not be selling the case. However, what's in the case, so I can do this without knocking everything over, is a whole tub full of rusty, crusty, and dusty shoe stuff. And so I will not sell it as a set. I'll sell it individually. I might lot a couple of the things together. But like there's 7 of these little Griffin suede dressing, dark blue, still new in their bottle. To prevent bottle tipping while in use, break perforation, then insert bottle in opening, press here. The bottles are, they have the little applicator thing. They've got the instructions are still in here. And then the bottle. And the bottle is still full. So these will have to be shipped ground because I can't ship liquid versus on priority. But I have 7 of these just, full new old stock, basically. And then in addition to all of this is getting into like some of the stuff that, this was probably used by either I would assume this was probably used by like I hate to say professional shoe shiner, but like maybe somebody worked in a train station or, something along those lines where it's like, this was not, I don't think for somebody to shine their own shoes. This kit is too big. But there's all kinds of these little tins. So we got Esquire boot polish, Esquire leather dye. Some are glass, some are plastic. This is a Johnson self-shining polish in black. And some of them, like this one, I'm going to guess that the glass is clear, but it had a red dye in it. So it's basically, the liquid is still in here. It's basically dyed the glass red. I'm going to kind of look to see, but I don't think it's red glass. I think it's clear glass. It just has the red dye. White. There's just all kinds of, it's like they had a lot of white shoe polish, and this is how weird I am. This is like, I can pull out just absolutely archaic quotes from old movies. I was watching, don't judge, I was watching State Fair, Rodgers and Hammerstein State Fair, the movie the other night. And there's a scene where the girl, I don't know well enough to remember everybody's name, but the girl, has walked the fair and she's about to go the next day. And she is using a bottle of white shoe polish and one of those little adapter, seeing their update, like repolishing her white shoes to go walk down the dusty, roadways of the fair. But I guess that's what you did in the 50s or 40s. So it's like, I don't know when white shoe polish was popular. I think I had white boots with my band uniform in the 70s. But there's a lot of white polish in here. So I'm not sure how aged all of this stuff is. And that's it. We are all weird, Vinny. I hear you. Yeah. And that's what's great about this community. We all own our weirdness. And it's a great movie. It's one of those things that what I did a lot during COVID was like my daughter's tendency is she would go into Amazon Prime. Like we have Netflix, of course, but like she'd go into Amazon Prime and she would buy something, or she would rent something. She's like, oh, it's only $3.99. I'm just going to rent it. And I'm like, yeah, but it's only $7.99 or $9.99 or whatever. And you could buy it. And trust me, I can watch the death out of movies. Like I've seen some of my most favorite movies. Dozens would be an understatement. Hundreds of time would not be out of the question. And we're talking like silly movies. Like one of my favorite silly movies is King Ralph, which is just a bizarre, that should be like my guilty pleasure, but it's King Ralph. It's just stupid. All the way up to like, I just had to fill out a thing for at the theater. What's my favorite movie? And I'm like, pressure. And I was put in Age of Innocence, which is one of my favorite movies. I don't know if it necessarily stays at the top, but Age of Innocence is one of my favorites. I could just totally, I can just get lost in the cinematography of Age of Innocence, and I'll watch a different movie based on my mood. Like if I'm in a bad mood and I need to like pep up, I think I might have talked about this once before. Like I'll turn on Kinky Boots. If you guys have never seen the musical production that they recorded of Kinky Boots, it will get anybody out of a bad mood. It is hilarious. The music is super upbeat. It's great for Pride Month. It's fun. And like, but I can't wear that. I can't watch that if I'm getting ready to go to bed. Like it's too, energy and you want to sing. So I will buy the movies. And so one of the most recent ones I bought was State Fair, because they had it on Amazon Prime run sales, and they had it on sale for $4.99. You could rent it for $3.99, or you could buy it for $4.99. I'm like, sign me up. And I now own a copy of State Fair. I'm trying to think what I own. I own a lot of musicals. I own Evita. I'm trying to think of some of the more recent ones. And it's like always, I wait for them to go on sale. I'm sure I've got The Music Man. That Thing You Do, like it doesn't have to be vintage. That Thing You Do, I think, is fantastic. Although hell, that's probably getting pretty vintage by now. But it takes place in the 60s. It represents the 60s, so it's like kind of vintage. But that's a Tom Hanks movie. That's probably almost 20 years old. I've got that. I'm trying to think so Age of Innocence. Trying to think what movies I've got that aren't musicals. But it's all mixed up. I watch TV shows. Young Catherine, total hidden treasure. If anyone, it's a television show from a mini series from the 80s, maybe like 89 or 90. Julia Ormond as Catherine, had a total thing for her. If you remember the Friends episode, we were supposed to make a list of the people that you would have a free card to sleep with a significant other. Julia Ormond was on my card. Young Catherine, absolutely fabulous movie. I own that. Lost in Austin, total chick flick, but it's another miniseries, BBC miniseries. Absolutely fantastic. That's, a contemporary woman gets sucked into the book of Pride and Prejudice. It's hilarious. Airplane. Okay, so we got Airplane as a guilty treasure. Hey, Debbie. Hairspray, absolutely, definitely a great movie or musical. I did see Hairspray in London, and it was hilarious listening to the way they pronounce some of the characters' names because that is an American show, and it was in Baltimore, and they're trying to represent the Baltimore accent, which is kind of unique. And the movie does it pretty well, but the stage musical, it is a little bit different, but there's a great story there. I would totally agree. Hairspray is great. Merchant Ivory movies, absolutely. Like the early days of Tim Burton's wife, and I can't think. She was the woman in. She was the pie maker in the movie Sweeney Todd. I don't know. She did a bunch of Julia Ormond. That Thing You Do, absolutely great. Also, Book of Witches things. She used polished my kids' white baby Nikes. Oh, okay. I have to say, I don't think I ever polished our daughter's shoes, but yeah, she did have white baby shoes. Kinky Boots is not naughty. There's actually some fairly fun interviews at the time because Kinky Boots is actually a movie, and a lot of people don't know that. It started as a movie. It's a British movie, and it's not that good. It's not a musical, but they took the storyline from the movie and turned it into the musical, and the movie had the Kinky Boots line. And so that's what they kept because they thought people would know the movies. Well, the problem is nobody knew the movie. So it wasn't like you got the benefit of naming your musical after like an existing, entity. And it was one of those cases where they were having problems selling tickets initially because people were staying away. It's an LGBTQ theme. And then you hear the word Kinky Boots, that gets associated with that. It's like, I don't think that's for me. And so you had like the Bridge and Tunnel crowd on Broadway, like, I don't think this is what we want to watch. And so they'd see it, or they have friends that would see it. And then they're like, oh, well, this isn't kinky at all. Like, why is this the name? And so then they bring their friends. And so like word of mouth is really what saved that show. And it turned into a major show. I think it ran for like 5 years. I saw it in Chicago prior to it going to Broadway. And I want to say, I don't think I actually saw it on Broadway, but the recorded version is the London production. So it is definitely one of those, it's a misnomer movie because you're not alone. I'm not surprised that you would think it was a naughty movie, but it's not. But it totally gives that name. So Katie actually did see it on Broadway, so that's great. Let's see. So Disappeared. I don't think I know that one. You get some more stuff from me. One thing I want to do is download Disappeared from ID. I don't know what that one is. Do you have Susan? Do you have like a little counter, like a little abacus that you keep? Like, oh, we're coming to the 50th. Then do you enjoy the 50th time? Like, okay, this is my last time. Not watching it after this. 15 done. Do you burn it afterwards? Delete it? I never. Yes, John Goodman from King Ralph. It is just the stupidest premise of a movie, and it's freaking hilarious. It's silly. It's like you just have to get rid of any sort of concept of reality, and literally like within the first 5 minutes, because the storyline behind this is the British royal family has gotten together on the grounds of Buckingham Palace or wherever they are to take a photograph and a family picture. And as they're getting taken the picture, they all get electrocuted and die. This all happens in the first 5 minutes. And it is then presumed every person that ever existed from the royal family tree is now dead, and they have nobody else to be the king, and they have to find somebody. Okay, that's so not the case. Like, it's like the steps for who becomes president. Like, at some point, if like a bomb goes off in DC, we may end up with the undersecretary of the interior as our president, but there's a really long line of people that end up being in here. And that's, you kind of have to just like throw that away and be like, okay, yeah, the 172 people that are in line for the throne, they were all there, or whatever. And the person they find is an American. And it's actually, I believe it was Peter O'Toole's final movie. And so I'm not sure that was probably the legacy he wanted to leave behind, but he was hilarious. Funny movie. Absolutely loved it. And like, I just watch that every once in a while. Like I said, I'll just watch stupid things every once in a while. The original Odd Couple. Absolutely. That's a great one. I don't think I know Rat Race. On a bad movie, I watch it once and declare it to be the 50th. Okay, that I could give you. That I would give you, Susan. So Disappeared is a crime television show. I'm so bad with anything television, even stuff like within the last 10 or 20 years, even when I did have cable, I just don't ever sit down to watch a show. Like, I will say I've seen the Gilmore Girls, the full 7 seasons, at least 25 times, but I'm not watching it. It's in the background while I'm working. And so, like, if somebody were to walk in the room and say, oh, which episode is this? I would literally have to stop and think about it and look to see where we were. And I know enough that I could probably spit out all the lines, but I'm not watching it. And that's the problem with new shows. It's like, if I want to watch a new show, I can't be working on my computer. I can't be taking photographs for eBay. I can't be updating. I can't be packing. I've got to sit down and watch a show. Otherwise I get confused. And so I tend not to watch a lot of new shows. So like, I've never seen, there are tons of shows I've never seen. I've never seen Lost. I've never seen Sopranos. I've never seen any of those weird reality shows like Bachelor. I think I saw one season of Survivor, like literally the season when it first started, and one and done. I didn't need any more of that. Amazing Race, absolutely love, but like Big Brother, maybe watched one episode and my eyes started bleeding, and so I stopped watching that. But for the most part, they're just like really popular shows. I've never seen Game of Thrones. I've tried to watch an episode of The Outlander. Not really my thing. Like, there's people that go crazy about these shows. And I'm like, yep, sorry, never even seen an episode. I Love Lucy. Like getting in the old stuff. I'll watch any of that. So Hometown. Oh, I don't think I know that one. Driving Miss Daisy. Very good. I do own that. I bought that outright. There's also a stage production. I think it's still on Broadway HD. I've got a subscription to that. That has Angela Lansbury and James Earl Jones. And the play is only a 2-person play. Like, that's it. There's just Miss Daisy and the gentleman. So there's like, the movie introduces whole other characters. Like, my daughter watched it for the first time during COVID. We were just like looking for things to watch, and she'd never seen it. And I'm like, well, that's Patti LuPone. And she's like, that's Patti LuPone? It's a tiny role. Like, you would never have any idea that Patti LuPone was in this movie. But yep, she was. So yeah, Driving Miss Daisy, absolutely wonderful movie. I love all kinds of British. One of my favorite British television shows is Black Books. Basically, he's a salesman he's a businessman who owns a bookstore, and he hates books and he hates customers. So it's like my inner me coming out, and like the me that I'm not allowed to have. So let's see. Got to do costumes for Beetlejuice on Broadway. I didn't get to see that one. I used to go to Broadway or New York twice a year for work, and anytime I'd go, I'd make sure I'd see as many shows as I could see. And I got to see a lot of shows and a lot of people, like a lot of famous people. Producers is not my favorite. I'm not big into potty humor, and so some of the humor I feel it gets borderline tasteless. The movie's very good. They are very funny, and Nathan Lane is absolutely just, he's the same in almost every show he does, but he's hilarious. So that's not my favorite, but I've also seen some really bad community theater productions of it. And, sometimes when you start drifting along the Nazi stuff, it really needs to be handled properly without it suddenly being in very, very bad taste. Let's see. Phantom is a great musical. I did see, I first saw it when it traveled to Chicago in 1989. And then I saw it again in 2015 on Broadway, and it was like the exact same show. I remembered everything about it. I knew exactly what was going to happen, when, who was hiding where. It was like the exact same production because it's been running forever. But that's that. Not even an old-fashioned musical, but like I would go for Phantom before I would go for like a stage production of Carousel, which really should never be done ever, or Oklahoma. That's just not my thing. Oh my goodness, Debbie's never seen Gilmore Girls, but who am I to judge? I've never seen Game of Thrones. So, Upstairs, Downstairs, I think I saw like once a long time ago. I don't really remember much of it. That's okay, Pamela. We are literally, obviously not talking about anything important. So have a great night. Thanks for joining what you did. I don't think somebody was talking about The Prisoner. I don't think I've heard of The Prisoner. I don't know what that one is. And it's definitely, I love the classic shows. One of the, there's some shows that I would love to find, and I've tried to find them on YouTube, but they're not on any of the streaming platforms. One of them is the Ann Sothern Show. Loved Ann Sothern. First of all, a total crush on her. Loved Ann Sothern. She's got a great sense of humor. There's I think it's Amazon Prime. They have her private secretary. They have the show is called Private Secretary, and it's funny. I've watched that one, but there's another one where she is the like an office manager in a hotel. And I can't, and I think it's just called the Ann Sothern Show, but I've looked it up under Ann Sothern. I can't find it anywhere. It is hilarious. She has just absolutely, and it's that old fashioned, that 40s and 50s, that comic timing that is not really taught anymore, and is like right now is oversurpassed by other things, and like potty humor or whatever. Like these were completely clean shows. You couldn't have double entendres. You couldn't do some of the stuff that people would do for jokes now. Absolutely loved those shows. Old movie that's missing is Rebecca. One of the, in my opinion, I hate to say the only good Hitchcock, but I'm not a Hitchcock fan. Rebecca is, to me, it's not a typical Hitchcock film, which is why it's so good. It was just filmed with great cinematography, some great story time, lining, just the way they edited that. I've read the book too. It's way better than the book. It's so streamlined, and it's just not available. Like it's not you can't find it on YouTube. You can't find it on Netflix or anything. Like sometimes you can get, if you have Turner Classic or something. But Rebecca is absolutely fantastic. Thanks, Susan. Thanks for joining. Golden Girls. So I lived Golden Girls in the original era, that it was funny, but it wasn't the thing that it has become. Like memes, obviously, like computers barely existed. Like it wasn't things that it's turned into. They become like this iconic thing, but unless you guys feel differently, I don't think it was all that iconic at the time. It was funny. It was, there was, again, fantastic ensemble acting and great timing on all of them. Like Betty White is the best of them. But it was just a funny show. Like it was a popular show. It wasn't the cult phenomenon that it's become. there's a podcast I listen to. It's called Gay Card Revoked. Do not hold that against the name of it. It's, if you want to explore it for pride, but it doesn't have to mean anything. It's just what it's doing is it's going back and exploring shows and movies and people that have become iconic in the LGBTQ community. And they did an episode on Gilmore Girls. They did an episode on the Golden Girls. And it's one of those cases, like, again, because I'm of the age that I haven't watched them since they were on originally, I'm like, okay, first, right off the bat, how did that become a gay icon film or series? I don't know. As they did the podcast, it's like, well, they were one of the first shows to introduce a gay character. They were one of the first shows that, talked about AIDS. They were one of the first shows. It's like all these things that were cutting edge that you can look at, like hindsight's 2020, that during the time, like maybe I knew that was the first show that did that, but it wasn't like a thing at the time. They did another one on Designing Women. Designing Women, I think, is a great show. Also, why is that a gay icon? Like, why is that an LGBT thing? And it's because some of the people that wrote the shows, some of the shows that they did, it addressed, LGBT topics way before they would hit the mainstream. And so they were really big shows that were not necessarily tackling difficult subjects, but were at least addressing difficult subjects. And so that's kind of where they became iconic. And absolutely, I agree, Maria. And hi, Maria. I don't think I said hi to you. Designing Women is hilarious. Like it is a great show. Bob Newhart was a great show. Mary Tyler Moore was a little before my time to watch, like as the regular. I was alive, but I was too young to like watch that subject matter. But somebody just did a podcast on that one. I don't think it was Gay Card Revoked. I think it was something else. And it was just talking about feminism. And that one of the big deals with Mary Tyler Moore was that she was being portrayed as a powerful single woman who was successful in the workforce, which back then didn't exist. Like you just didn't really have that. And you think of it now, like would that show even be made? But back then it was like cutting edge. And so it's great. So of course there's Friends. Friends definitely was iconic. I would say I liked Friends better than Seinfeld, although I watched both. I had the weird experience with the Seinfeld series finale. I was in Montreal, Quebec for work on the day of that the finale. And so one of my customers invited me to his home where he was hosting a party with all of his friends to watch it. All of his friends who knew I did not speak French spoke French the entire time I was there. And every time there was a commercial break for Seinfeld, they would turn on a hockey game, a sport I barely even understand the concept of. And so and it was also mayfly season, which that's not a thing around here, but evidently in Canada it's normal. And I had never seen so many bugs, and they were everywhere. And it was a very weird experience. So that was my Seinfeld. Never particularly cared for Roseanne. I never particularly cared for shows that represented my childhood, and basically every person in Roseanne I'm probably related to. So not something I really went after. It's a Time Team, unless you're saying it's time for the team to go. I don't know what that show is. It's a Time Team on BBC. I don't think I know that one. Gene Tierney. Ooh, we're talking about Blonde Bombshells. I can't think of anything that she did. I know she did a lot, but I can't like cross-reference some of the old style. I personally was a Hedy Lamarr fan. Thought she was the most gorgeous siren of that era of the early films. So let's see. It's not memorable. We're literally talking about nothing. Like what you're getting is me rambling because I was too disorganized to actually edit a video to run tonight. I will say, oh, are you being served? Hey, Todd, love that show. Love that show. They had, I want to say Amazon Prime. They had the first, it's like your first hit of crack is free. I think they had the first season was free, but then you had to pay for the others. I'm like, okay, I can't like each season was like $20, and there's something like 7 seasons. I'm like, yeah, I can't justify buying all of these, but that is just the epitome of British humor. That's got the total double entendres. It's like from the, I don't think it was maybe it was the 70s. I don't think, maybe they were just maybe end of 60s. Can't remember when Are You Being Served started, but I want to say it was a 70s thing. But it had younger characters, older characters. They played so much. Absolutely. Ziegfeld, the movie Ziegfeld Girl, can't take your eyes off of her. She had like a tiny role, and Haley Barr, I'm like, let's freeze frame this because she's the only thing worth watching. And let's see, The Night in Quebec. I'm not sure I know about that one, but it was at nighttime in Quebec, but it's in Montreal. Yes. Are You Being Served? And yes, Heidi Lamar, she invented like something that basically became the groundwork for like sonar or something. Like, it's like she didn't technically invent sonar, but she invented or recognized the concept of how to make it work. But the technology didn't exist at the time. But yes, there was a book written relatively recently, and okay, it was a Bluetooth technology. I couldn't remember exactly what it was. So yes, and that's the great stuff when you do find things like that, because at the time she was Hedy Lamarr. She was the pretty one. Like, you didn't expect women to do anything, much less invent. So yes, so there we go. GPS and Bluetooth. Okay, so I said sonar, radar. I don't know. EastEnders. I don't think I ever watched EastEnders. I mean, I know what it is, but I don't think I ever watched that. Perfect Strangers. I actually have met Belky. I'm just going to stop that I met him. But I used to be in the audiobook world. He is a narrator for audiobooks, so our paths had crossed in that. I actually did meet some relatively not famous people like in the big world, but if you're an audiobook fan, I met some really, really big names. If anyone listens to audiobooks, or if you used to watch Orange is the New Black, Barbara Rosenblatt is a major narrator of audiobooks. She was Miss Rosa in Orange is the New Black. So the first 3 seasons, 2.5 seasons. I went bra shopping with Barbara Rosenblatt. That is my claim to fame with her. Love The Muppet Show. As time goes by. Okay, that's Judi Dench, right? Well, I don't think I know Last of the Summer Wine. Was Katie talking about Chandler? Is in the show Friends, the guy who played Chandler's dad. The guy who played Chandler's dad was Kathleen Turner, the woman. So yes, it was actually a woman, but Kathleen Turner's voice is so deep, it made it perfect for her to be his dad. I haven't seen Young Victoria. I've seen things about it. Downton Abbey, to be perfectly honest, I watched 1 episode. I did not watch the beginning. I watched in the middle. I was so confused. And my wife at the time and my daughter kept shushing me because I wanted to ask questions like, who is that? I never went back and tried to pick it up. I just felt it was like a soap opera, and which I guess is why people like it. Keeping Up Appearances. Hyacinth Bouquet, Miss Bucket. Absolutely fabulous. Not my favorite, but definitely it's always for a good chuckle. Bionic Man. Flash and Pass. $6 Million Man. Bionic Man. Perfect. Tallulah Bankhead. There was actually a Gay Card Revoked episode dedicated to Tallulah Bankhead. Once again, why is this the case? Now, I will say, if you've seen is it Netflix? I think it's the Netflix has a mini series or like short series called Hollywood. Tallulah Bankhead is actually portrayed in that. It is very off color, is definitely working blue. So if you're of a sensitive nature, do not watch Hollywood. But there is some fascinating stuff that then as you hear different things about different actors and actresses, they did try to get portrayed in there. And Tallulah Bankhead, basically one of the things that I guess was known about her and was portrayed in Hollywood is that she worked both ways. So she had relationships with men and women. And that is represented in the show. One of her lovers was Hattie McDaniel, Mammy from Gone with the Wind. And that's in both the Gay Card Revoked episode. They talk about that, which came out before the movie Hollywood came, or the show Hollywood came out. So it's funny when things like reflect that. 60s and 70s detective shows. My dad was a cop, and so we tended not to watch those a lot. He would sometimes watch them, but he would get angry because he felt that they weren't being true. Like these weren't documentaries, but like he liked Hill Street Blues. That was one that we were allowed to watch because that was based in Chicago. That one he felt was more representative. But like we never watched Fish. We never watched Fish was a spinoff of something else. I can't think of what that one was. We didn't watch that one. We didn't watch what was the guy who was in the trailer? Not Matlock. Something Files. Rockford Files. We didn't watch that. We did watch the show called Vegas. I can't remember who the guy was. That was kind of like a crime thing, but it just had a very weird. I just had a very weird childhood. But because my dad was a cop, we did look at things a little differently. And I don't know if she was necessarily a diva of her day. But if you do watch the Hollywood, and I do encourage it is good. You need to be warned. There's language. There is full frontal nudity for both male and female. So it's like there's a lot that you need to be aware of, but it is a good show. And I would say the way she's represented, she kind of sounded like a diva. And actually one of the things that Gay Card Revoked episode talked about is that she was on like a list. Now, this is before McCarthyism, but like she was on some list of people that shouldn't be made movie. She shouldn't be able to make a movie because she wasn't basically family friendly or something like that. So she did struggle in the industry. And didn't really make the shows, but a lot of people might know her. Another Hitchcock film. I made like some of the things with Hitchcock is I don't like to be uncomfortable watching a film, and she was in Lifeboat, and Lifeboat is to me I like wanted to hold my breath the entire that it was very. I don't like that level of like charge. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, it was a very well filmed movie, but anyway, that's the only real major movie I knew her from other than just the name. So BBC show Vera. Yeah, I don't think I know that one. Age of Innocence though, absolutely favorite, like one of my favorites movies by far. Okay. Do I really want to talk about this? All right, there's only a handful of you, like, so if you want to shun me later. Well, I can't do that and then not say it, so I'll just say it. I grew up in a not politically correct household. I will keep it very simple. I was not raised in a politically correct household. We did not watch The Jeffersons because it represented a successful minority. What we did watch was Sanford and Son. That should give you a pretty good snapshot into my childhood and why I have baggage that just drags with me everywhere I go. So yes, The Jeffersons is a great show, and I have seen The Jeffersons, and I enjoyed The Jeffersons. My family enjoyed All in the Family, but they liked All in the Family for all the wrong reasons. Let's see. Vicar of Dibley. I've seen a couple of those. I can't say that I'm particularly knowledgeable in that. Barney Miller. That was the one that Fish spun off of. So we didn't really watch that. Monk is excellent. My ex-wife and I, we used to watch that all the time. Can't say I really knew any of the Dean Martin shows. Like I was kind of on the cusp. Like we did have some of the variety shows, like those were really more popular in the 60s, but they still existed in the 70s. So like the Donnie Marie show, like I watched that a lot. I just was watching, I think it was already referenced, it was a Gilmore Girls episode, Shields and Yarnell. Okay, everyone, let's see who remembers Shields and Yarnell and what I was talking about, because that reference, I'd heard it before, but it just came up again though. But the first time I heard the reference, I was practically on the floor laughing my ass off because it's such a random point in history, but it was absolutely perfect for what was happening in the show. So Monk is great. Oh, Murphy Brown. Loved Murphy Brown. Absolutely loved Murphy Brown. Sanford and Son was a good show, but again, we watched it for the wrong reasons. Fish was the one that spun off of Barney Miller. Fish was Abe Vigoda. Vigoda. I think it was Abe Vigoda. So he was in Barney Miller, I want to say, And then they kind of turned him. And I don't know how long Fish lasted, but that was a little bit later, so I did remember that one more. Thank you, Sue. No Shun Zone. Let's see. There you go. Sue totally fixed it. And like I tried to raise my daughter in every way. Like, okay, what would my parents do? Let's do the opposite. So you grow. Sometimes what does not kill you make you stronger. Sometimes I feel like I'm freaking Hercules, but whatever. Mae West, absolutely. Can't really top her. And Charles in Charge. Oh my God, flashback. Totally remember Charles in Charge, and would have been around the same time. Who's the Boss? I saw Who's the Boss is now available. I want to say on Amazon Prime for free. You get the entire series for free. Columbo. Didn't really watch that much. Again, that kind of fell into like, is this? My dad was not a detective in any way, but he felt like he was, acted like he was. My dad was the type of. I don't think any of my family watches this. My father was the type of person that became a police officer because by putting a uniform on, you were required to give him respect. He is the type of person that if he were a police officer today, he would be one of the people being videotaped and then fired. I have no question about it. So I'm sharing way too much. Sonny and Cher, absolutely love Sonny and Cher. Okay, we got another vote for the Gilmore Girls. Soap. Now, Soap was cutting edge because Soap was the first one. I don't think Gay Card Revoked has covered that yet. Soap was the first one. I want to say, like it was like it's like a technicality. It was like the first show that had either a named character that was gay or a storyline. Like I can't remember. There was something about the fact because it was when Harry Met Sally. That guy, his character was gay. And so it was something about Soap. There was something about the fact that gay character was in the show that it was, even at the time, it was being recognized as like a cutting edge thing. And I want to say it was maybe because like the storylines weren't about the fact that he was gay. I can't remember. Like you get into those gray areas, as you find things. And again, hindsight's 2020. Jean Harlow, also beautiful. Billy Crystal, there it was. So yeah, Billy Crystal played the gay character. I just can't remember it was important because the fact that there was a gay character was like a really big deal. But I guess the situation was like maybe there were television shows that technically had a gay character, but either they didn't have a name or they weren't maybe it was a recurring role. I can't remember what made it special. You know what? Star Trek and Star Wars, both, nothing. Like never watched either episode. I fake it a little bit. I did a video today when I was at the theater. I found this basket of wigs. I'm like, oh, it's like Trouble with Tribbles. I've never seen the episode of Trouble with Tribbles. It's so iconic. I know what it is. Mannix, Dr. Kill, Ben Case. Those are probably getting a little bit earlier than my time. I don't think I even recognize Mannix. Dr. Kildare, I recognize Ben Casey. I recognize Perry Mason. Perry Mason definitely went into the 70s. I'm trying to think. I don't think I knew Manic. So yeah, I do not want to upset any of the Trekkies or the Trekkers or the Star Wars. What are Star Wars people called? Armistead Maupin. Were there movies? I thought that was an author. What do I know? So we got Columbo. Oh, Kojak. Yeah. So Kojak, we did watch Kojak. I don't remember why, but we watched Beretta, which is the one that had the bird. Beretta, I think, had the bird. Kojak had the lollipops, and Starsky and Hutch. My dad actually had a friend that was, I think he might have also been a cop, but he had a replica, the same model. I don't know which one it was, but the same model as Starsky and Hutch. He had it decorated, the pinstriped and everything the same way as Dynasty and as Starsky and Hutch. I was looking at Dynasty as I was saying that. I didn't really watch Dynasty, but that would have been after Soap. Soap would have been like early 70s. So yeah, Beretta, I think, is the one with the cockatiel or cockatoo. Okay, so Mannix went into 75. Well, I was born in 1970, so my parents put me in front of a lot of inappropriate things. I guess Mannix just didn't impress itself upon me. Tales of the City. Okay, that's why I recognize that name. Yep. And that I want to say is on either Netflix or Amazon Prime. I remember seeing that. I haven't watched it. I remember seeing that. Space 1999. Oh, I don't remember that one. Policewoman. Yep, we watched that, but that was because my dad had a thing for Angie Dickinson, and he decided to tell all of us, including his children, that he had a thing. Saint. I'm gonna guess Saint Elsewhere. Saint Elsewhere. Also, that was a show we watched a lot. Medical Center. Chad Everett. I don't think I recognize that one. Okay. Oh, Soap. I didn't realize Soap was that late. 77 to 81. I think Dynasty, though, was in the 80s. So I still think Dynasty was after Soap. Oh, MASH. MASH was a good one. MASH. My ex liked MASH, and we watched that all the time. That was like, I think at the time, its final episode was the most watched episode in the history of television. Like, I think it beat out the birth of Little Ricky on I Love Lucy. Northern Exposure. I love Northern Exposure. Yeah, so Rockford Files. Yeah, James Gardner. I don't think I remember Space 1999. Starsky and Hutch. Oh, Emergency. What was I just watching? The guy from Emergency is in Newsies, the movie version of Newsies. It was also a recorded Broadway version, but the movie version with Christian Bale, the bad guy is the guy from Emergency. So there's like this weird. Okay, The Nanny. I didn't really watch The Nanny that much. I think some shows end up getting regional, and like sometimes, like I don't like in the theater world, I'm not a big Neil Simon fan because so much of his stuff is so specific to New York City and New York life that living and growing up in the Midwest, I don't get half of the humor. So The Nanny, like to me, The Nanny was just that annoying voice and like everything about New York and this total stereotypical accents. I just couldn't get past it as a show. So I never really watched it. However, interesting, like the useless, like none of this is useful. So like you've just lost 3 hours with me. I don't know what you all are doing. But the useless, piece of information for The Nanny is 8 years ago, we hosted, when I was still married, we hosted an exchange student. My daughter was really interested in German. She was already studying German independently. Her school didn't offer it. So we hosted a German exchange student for an entire year. So like not just for a month, not for a few weeks, not for a semester. It was for an entire year. And one of the things we did while she was here, we're like, okay, well, like, what can we do? And one of the things we decided to do was go from Chicago, and we went to New York City for a week on a vacation, and we all got to pick. So the way we did it was it was just myself and the two girls. I just said, okay, each of us will pick one show we really want to see. Like we would be really devastated if we didn't see it when we left. The rest of the time, we will just go to the TKTS booth and buy half price tickets of like whatever we can get. So it was like a big deal for us to pick the 3 shows so that we made sure that we saw like the best shows we had to offer. I chose Heathers, the musical, which was off Broadway, which was amazing. My daughter chose Phantom of the Opera. So that was the second time that I watched that. So she picked Phantom of the Opera. And then the exchange student picked Cinderella, the Rodgers and Hammerstein's version of Cinderella, with Carly Rae Jepsen as Cinderella and Fran Drescher as the evil stepmother. So she loved, in Germany, she loved The Nanny, this exchange student. Her name was Carolyn. Carolyn loved The Nanny. She was like, so funny. She was so great. And like, oh, we're in New York. I've got to see the thing with Nanny because that's all about New York. And I've got to see this show. I'm like, okay, God, I can't imagine sitting through Cinderella, but whatever. I was like gagging. People are like, oh, it's so sweet. I'm like, anyways, we sat there and started. We get to intermission. And I'm like, so how do you like the show? And Carolyn, who has picked this show, says, why is she talking like that? And I'm like, I'm sorry. What do you mean? She's like, she's got such an obnoxious, grating voice. Why is that character? Is that the way the character is written? We're like, both my daughter and I were like, you do know who Fran Drescher is, don't you? And we're like, that's her character. Like, there's nothing about Cinderella that means the wicked stepmother should sound like she's from Long Island. But, if you're Fran Drescher, you know where your paycheck's coming from. You're going to play the nanny. In Germany, it's dubbed. And the German voice of Fran Drescher does not use an obnoxious, grating accent. So she had no idea what Fran Drescher sounded like. And we sat through a 2-hour musical listening to Fran Drescher talk like she talks. So that was like a total 5-minute little rabbit hole. But all right, so Vintage Dynasty started 81. So I think Soap was 77 to 81. So a little bit later. Oh, West Wing, absolutely fantastic. Bob Newhart, I love Bob Newhart. Let's see. And Tiger knew where I was going. TV shows are always dubbed, and it was just one of those things we never even considered it. We kind of had talked about how shows were done, but we just never thought, because there's stuff in at least the initial parts of The Nanny that talk about her voice. Like there are lines that talk about why do you talk that way? I guess they just skimmed over that part. Who knows? So yes, I got stuck watching. Cinderella, and when we then went and saw one of the shows we went and saw that had half price tickets for was Chicago. I hated that show, hated it. And when I was walking out of Chicago, I'm like, gee, I didn't think I'd watch anything that I hated more than Cinderella. I was wrong. I hated Chicago, that production of Chicago. The movie is tolerable. I'm not a big Kander and Ebb fan in general. But that production that's been running for 20 years, I have no idea why people like it, other than the fact everyone on stage is practically naked. It just is not it's not the theater experience I'm looking for. I don't expect the judge to suddenly jump on a pole and start doing pole dancing. That to me is not a Broadway musical. But, Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea, I don't think I saw that one. And I would say Fran Drescher was, she was pretty in her way. I think to a certain extent she had to kind of carry her own caricature, and that hurt her a little bit. But bone structure, height, shape, she's an attractive woman. Hi, Elizabeth. Don't think I said hi to you earlier, so I don't think I said hi to Tiger either, so apologize. So let's see. So okay, I've got support from Katie. Chicago's not the favorite show. So let's see. So Elizabeth's saying that so in France, the shows were dubbed there also. Oh, that's interesting. So the Belgium doesn't dub. Well, and it's one of those cases, my daughter did live in Germany off and on a couple of times during the summer, during high school. Then she did her study abroad there for 7 months before she got kicked out for COVID. But it wasn't consistent. We would talk about music and we talk about different things. And like the songs from a musical, well, sometimes they're converted, but other times they are kept in English. And I'm like, how do you decide? And how does the German public know? Does everyone just know this song? It's just, I did find that part absolutely fascinating. And then when I've traveled internationally. I never expect a country I go to speak English. I am very grateful when they do speak English to me, but I didn't expect it. And so then when I'm going around and I'm looking at signs and directions and different things, it's always interesting to me how much is translated to English versus when it's not. And one of our first trips to Germany, when my daughter was still really little, she was maybe conversational in German. She'd had enough German that she could actually carry on a very simple conversation. She's probably 10, 11. We ended up, long story short, too late. We ended up in parking in the parking garage at the hotel. We were there over the weekend. We stayed a couple of days. We never moved the car because I hated driving over there. So we never moved the car. Actually, that trip was her second one. So she was maybe 14 at that point. So she knew more German. But we just didn't need the car. So we had not moved it. And then it got to be Monday. I was there for a business trip and she was with me. We went to move the car and it was completely taped, crime scene tape was all around it. And I'm like, what's going on? And it was an electrical worker's tape. They were doing work on the garage and we had parked in the section of the garage where they needed to do the work. So they had done a bunch of work up to our car, but they really needed us to move. But we didn't register our car. No one said anything, but they just hadn't anticipated us not moving our car for 3 days. And so we're trying to decide, do we move the tape? What do we do? We're totally confused. And this guy shows up, suddenly recognizes, here are the evil people that are driving this car that's in our way, starts screaming at us in German. And I just turned, looked at my daughter, and she's like, yeah, we haven't covered this. We just stared. We had no idea what the guy was saying. Like, we figured out he wanted us to move. And then we slowly figured out that he was like, they were doing electrical work or whatever. And so we were like, whatever, we're laughing, hilarious. Like, we thought it was hysterical. And it was just one of those cases where I'm like, come on, honey, haven't you like picked up your electrical 101 vocabulary yet? She's like, yeah, I didn't think I'd need it staying at a hotel in Heidelberg. So yes. So Michelle, hey, Michelle, I actually talked about you earlier. I don't think you were here. You're one of my Illinois people. So yes, Fran Drescher, I'm sorry. That's what it's designed to do. Some people like it, and it made her famous. If she did not talk that way, I don't think she would become who she became. But it's okay. So Lynn is owning up to the age. So yeah, so she knows Manic a little bit. She's a little bit earlier than ours. Yeah, the movie version's slightly better, I feel. The production, if you've ever seen the New York production, you know what I'm talking about. Everyone's wearing mesh. The men and women are in skin tight clothing, and they all are playing multiple characters, and it's just weird. It's more like a concert version. Like, there's no props, there's no set. And when you're not prepared for it, she shoots Jack Casely or whatever, and the judge shows up, and the judge was a guy, and he wasn't wearing any shirts, and he was wearing hot pants. I'm like, what courtroom are we in? Like, I thought this was Chicago. What's going on? And it's just it's a very sexual like production. And Chicago is a sexy show. Like, it doesn't necessarily, it's like the movie gives you costumes, and it gives you sets, and it gives you character development. It gives them that did not. That's just like, oh, we're going to sing a little bit. Now I'm going to like gyrate in front of you. Like, okay. So let's see. Oh, I don't think I know Hollywood Nights. I don't think I know that one. There you go. Janice. Absolutely. Janice on Friends would not even be a memorable character. People would not even know what you were talking about if she didn't talk the way she did. Like, there was an entire episode that made fun of her voice. So, you could definitely own it. So Irene says she saw it. Now, some people may like it. It's been running for 20 years. So clearly I am in the minority of not liking it. But I think to a certain point, it's because it's been running for 20 years. People like to see it because then they can say they saw it. And I will say, when we got our tickets, they were half price. The theater was half empty. Like, it was not a well-attended show. I haven't watched the Friends reunion either. All right. It's been 3 hours. I still have work to do. So I appreciate all you joining. 227. I did watch that show. That was a fun one. But I'm going to have to shut up. Shut up now. I do appreciate it, because this was like a little trip down memory lane. I hadn't even. Oh, stop giving shows. Moonlighting. That was an awesome show. Sybil Shepherd. Fantastic. I love Sybil too. Sybil was an awesome show. So anyway, I'm going to stop looking. But thank you, Michelle, saying Chopping by Piano looks good. It's about to look different. You probably missed the show and tell where I actually have new pieces of stoneware that are going to go up there. So for those of you really paying attention, you guys got a really interesting look into my past. Thank you for not, unsubscribing. But hope you had fun. I did really want to just kind of cover a bunch of the stuff that I bought, because it's already been showing up on my live sales. And I just never got a chance to do a video. I never got a chance to take pictures of it. This was just a really good, it's an easy way to get stuff done. I had no intention of staying on for as long as I did, but this was kind of fun. And I don't think I swore. So, you know what? Yay me. So I appreciate you joining. So this week, I will just kind of give you a little bit of a heads up. This week, I will try and drop a video kind of the middle of the week like I've been doing. I am behind, and with a theater production rehearsal starting, and my job is, I'm starting to travel again. We'll see how things go. But at this point, I am still planning to have a sale on Thursday. So that is as normal. Next week, my rehearsal, it's because we only have 4 weeks before we open. My Sunday rehearsal is actually running past my normal time. So the time that I would normally drop a video, I'm not going to be available to do a live sale. I'm not even going to be available to do a premiere chat. So I might try and get something recorded so I could just like drop something there, but it won't be a chat. It'll just be another video. Because I do have a couple of videos left to do. Like I recorded a video. Wittenberg University is in Springfield, Ohio. That's where I graduated from. On my trip through Ohio, on my way back, I filmed some of the old buildings at Wittenberg. I'm not sure why, and I'm not sure what I'm going to turn it into, but I have a Wittenberg collection, like a vintage collection, primarily postcards, but some other stuff, including this, the only item that I picked up for Wittenberg on my trip. I want to kind of maybe record a little bit of a collection video kind of at the end. I don't know. So I might try and get that recorded. And I don't know if I've got any other, videos. I think I might have a couple like antique stores from Ohio and Indiana when I finished. I'm not sure if those will turn into a video or not. So I've almost caught up with my road trip. And then I'm just going to, start doing local, visits again. And hopefully maybe I can find a museum or something. I do have a road trip scheduled at the end of this month for work. And so I'll be in some new locations and I might be able to get some video, record some video while I'm on that trip. So we shall go. So, okay. Babysitter originally from Springfield, Ohio. So that's where Wittenberg is based. So like I said, there will be a video. It won't be as tied to my channel. Like I'm going to talk about the fact that these buildings, like the school was founded in 1845 and the original building was built in like 1853. So I mean, there's definitely vintage and antique stuff there, but it's not like my typical stuff. It's really more of a, almost like another walk down memory lane, but just to kind of showcase. And it is, I've said it, I even said it in that video as I was recording it, like this isn't really a commercial for Wittenberg, but a lot of academic institutions are struggling right now. And so to a certain extent, like I'm going to put it out there as if it is a commercial for Wittenberg. So like somebody may just stumble across it that might be considering Wittenberg, they'll have something that kind of will show, like the Cambridge Museum, hey, this is more that you may not have seen on their website. So here's just some dude, walking the campus and showing what it really looks like and, getting something. So I'll drop that at some point. But thanks everybody for sticking around and joining me for so long. Appreciate so many, joining. I don't know if you were doing multiple screens, but I know you've got a lot of other places to spend your time. So I do appreciate you spending some time with me. So thanks for your time. Thanks for putting your trust in Trusty Huckster, and you all have a great night. Bye-bye.